Scraps, waiting to be picked up, manhandled, scruffed in a pocket, and then what? Disposed of, recycled, tossed on the street to be kicked by feet. Maybe one or two in thousands will be useful to someone, but to me, doubtful. There's more scraps in my pocket, appointments forgotten, photos in my wallet, now names I barely recall, little notes I write to remember things, now stuck with the fluff from last week's wash. Scraps of money, just the scraps. It's all I can seem to keep these days. As my pockets fray from the weight, the scraps will be lost.
Lizzie, it was aliens last night in the garden. Bright light, white as white, lit up the gladioli, and then they took the children. I begged them not to. Take me, I said, I'm fully formed, you'll learn more. Only I didn't say that because I couldn't get the words out. Measles, whooping cough, flu jabs, menopause for younger women. There's so many things that can go wrong. Busy. I don't know how they do it. Cowboys before put the dog in a bag and lowered her down a well. And then it was people with masks grabbing all the fish from the pond, and every time I can't get the sound out. Busy. I make a list. Oh, list. There's already a list. I don't remember making that one. And another one. Oh, list of lists.
God's sake, guys. Just pull yourself together. Come on. You can do it. Why do I always need a wee every time I enter a room? Why can't I just settle down like everyone else? Look at them all. They're all so calm. Have they all just been to the toilet? Oh no. Where even is the toilet? If I get up and go to the toilet and someone's in there, Do I wait standing in the middle of the room, or do I come back here and sit back down? What if someone's in there for ages doing a massive poo? What if I can't wait?
Late. Things to do. I haven't really. I took the day off, didn't I? Gonna go home, put my feet up for a change. Read a book. It's not like me to be self-aware, but after what happened last time, passed out, didn't I? There I was, lying on my back, knees bent, paper towel covering my bits. As soon as she started, I freaked. I couldn't stop shaking. I could hear myself screaming. And then everything went black. I've been putting it off ever since. Kept getting these flashbacks every time the invitations came in the post. I mean, it's silly, really. It was so long ago. But it's like he'd somehow come in with them. Through the letterbox, I mean. Binned them. The letters. But then Sally died. Seeing her boys at the funeral, awful it was.
I'm 20 minutes late getting back to Gran. Oh, I hope she hasn't got out into the garden again. She was stuck on those steps for 2 hours last time. And message Sue, check in on her. Why is this taking so long? Why are they so far behind? Oh, Alice, it's not always about you. It's probably what my mum would say right about now. I mean, the health service is under so much pressure at the moment. I should be more kind, more patient. I'm just really worried about Gran. Well, I've been afraid of change.
Always a bit nervous. Talking. Am I going to cry? Is there anything actually wrong with me? Shouldn't I feel weird all the time? Today is an okay day. There's not much to do. I don't have to do much. Where's my list? Oh, got the group later, online. That's good. Nice people, they get it. You know when someone gets it? They've been there. It's not just words then. No need for words. A little while ago, I was stuck in a building with lots of doors, and every door had a staircase. I opened the door, there was a staircase, like an Escher picture, round and round, back to another door. I couldn't get out. I couldn't get anyone's attention.
Did I really just do that? This is so embarrassing. I feel like everybody's looking at me now. I don't know where my head's at the minute. Just love singing. It's just something Gran and I do together. In fact, it's the only time when her and I, do something together where I don't feel like I'm her carer. And then I remember, I'm not like them. I'm not like Mum or Dad, or even Will. They've got their big jobs, their lives sorted. Me, well, what did they say? I'm in the in-between.
Hello, mate. Yeah, no, it's fine, thanks. Oh, you know how it is. Yeah, hasn't been 3 weeks, has it? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, it was great. I really loved it. I will get there soon, I promise. Okay, I've got to go. I'm just at the... Sorry. Okay, speak soon, Megs. I suppose it has been about 3 weeks. I didn't even really want to go, but Sam bullied me into it. I mean, no one wants to see a 50-year-old's baggy bits and saggy memories on show, do they? But it really surprised me. I'm so knackered. If only I could sleep. The next person who asks me if I'm okay might just get the truth. No one wants to hear you say, do you really want to know what's wrong? I'm missing my mum. I feel ugly and invisible. I'm too busy, too tired, too needed. Everyone always wants something of me. I'm either looking after patients or looking after the family or cooking or cleaning or feeding or making sure the husband is all right. But who's making sure I'm all right? I hope I don't start crying in there. Or out here. Seems to be happening a lot lately.
My mind's like my pockets. It's overflowing with discarded memories tossed in the wastebasket of subconscious. Night after night, I run down corridors after corridor, tripping over piles of worry to fall headlong into spiral after spiral after spiral until the only option left is to run. Bust out, inside perhaps, to words and images. Get lost in a drift of daydream. Externally, well, I react as I do internally. I flee into the sunshine, the rain, the wind. The sky doesn't complain. Into the forest and the moor, like my ancestors, commune with plant and beast. I feel they don't judge me, that they see me, and I them. Do you understand?
I must try and get there. It really helped. The thing is, while you're submerged in freezing cold water, fighting for your life, you tend to forget how rubbish you are and how rubbish you feel and how rubbish you look. Trying to remember how to tell whether a heart attack is incoming or whether you're about to die from hypothermia becomes your primary concern. You're just trying to stay afloat, gasp for breath, stay alive and swim. If only I could sleep. I haven't got the energy to do anything at the moment. I might ask the doctor if they can prescribe me something. 8 hours, what a luxury. Even 4 would be. 2 last night. Well, then they'll try and delve though, won't they? They want to know why I'm not sleeping, and I'll start crying, and she'll think I'm a nutter. I haven't got the time to be sectioned. And I don't want to take any tablets that made me feel even less than I feel now.
Cheer! Good stuff, this. Full of essential oils. It really does boost my mood. The lady in the health food shop recommended it. Don't know why I'm making such a meal of this. It's a routine screening, and I've had loads of counselling. Had to, after Claire was born. Postnatal depression and PTSD. Jim was so hurt that I hadn't told him. But I couldn't. I didn't know how. Went private in the end. Jim insisted. Paid for the yoga classes too. All that money. Worth it though. It really helped. The talking and the yoga. I think it saved our marriage.
Here I am, finally. Yes. Just keep smelling the flowers, blowing out the candles. I'm genuinely so happy that I work with children. I wonder what little Jowan's going to say when I tell him that the breathing exercise that he showed me helped chill me out whilst I was waiting to get my bloods taken. I mean, aren't I supposed to be the one educating them?
I will get out later. Not out, my out, in the garden. It's nice, safe, quiet, just birds. Not too peoply. Some people say, what you need is to get out more. I know they're only trying to help, but honestly, I think it's all about balance. I think actually that's part of the problem. I think too much, way too much, overthinking, ruminating. Usually worse at night, and then I'm shattered the next day, and usually thoughts that aren't even that helpful. Chattering monkey brain, overanalyzing every conversation. Why did I say that? What must they think about me? All the ifs, the what ifs, the guilt. The guilt! That's a beauty. White cider of emotion, guilt. Cheapest, nastiest, gets you feeling crappy the quickest.
Tapping, come on. I was just getting settled. Are you for real? Just trying to mess with me? Wait, what? No. What's she even wearing? Nutter. How reactive am I? Come on. So much for self-control. Come on, what's the line? Everyone's doing the best they can with the resources that they've got available. Everyone. Look around you, Barnes. We're all in this together. Okay. I wish you peace, my lady. May your foot tapping turn into some fantastic song one day. Wait! What if she's tapping her foot because she's genuinely happily dancing right now? Dancing! I love dancing. I miss dancing. I wonder if that class is still running.
Feel bad about taking time off. It's been so busy, so stressful lately. Strike days, engineering works, endless cancellations. But Amy said she'd cover for me. To be honest, we're all so grateful to even have a job. I never knew people felt so strongly about it. About us. Signing all those petitions, standing outside, waving banners. It were amazing. Really something. Written that in my little book so many times now.
Maybe that's why I'm not sleeping. Because I haven't been for a swim. I always sleep so well when I've been for a dip with the ladies. From feeling nothing, all of a sudden I feel everything. Everything that is begging my brain for attention begins to float away in ripples, and all that remains is some much longed for clarity. Skin tingles, everything tingles. Each breath feels precious, my eyes begin to see, I'm smiling, mouth wide open, cold water supporting me in a way that I hadn't realised I craved. Turns out I'm not the only one with baggy bits and saggy mammaries. And even if I was, would it matter?
Melanie Jones, room 2 please.
Amy got me into it. I had been telling her about how I'd been feeling. You know, about work and Sally and my screening appointment and stuff. And then I'd been having trouble sleeping. She said, Write down 3 things that you're grateful for every day. Focus on the positives. Felt a bit stupid to begin with, you know. But you know what? It works. Salt path. Jim give it me, bless him. Others worse off than you know, Mel, he said. Good to be reminded of that. That's what I'll read later.
You know, I understand the honest pain of a thorn in the finger, the ache of a hard day's work. What I don't understand is the pricks from the sadness of life, the cuts from the brambles as they grow and the tendrils twist and strangle my mind.
3 things I can see, 3 things I can feel, 3 things I can hear. Oh man, this is good. This is the present moment, I think. Right here, right now. All is allowed. I'm okay as I am. He's okay as he is. She's okay as she is. The needle going into my arm is going to be okay, as it is. It's as if it's criminal to feel this good, doing nothing. I wonder if someone had told me earlier I could be this happy in a waiting room. Maybe things would have been easier. No, come on. I've been properly lost. I could never afford the coaching my girlfriend had. Do you know what it was? It was the internet. The ability to self-teach and meet other like-minded weirdos. It's been a proper lifesaver.
Perhaps I won't find myself in tears all the time if I just put my cosy on and take a plunge. I spend my whole life snivelling at the moment. It's just exhausting. One minute I was browsing the snack aisle and the next, well, I don't even understand what happened. It was like a tsunami had risen up inside me and briny water was pouring from my face. I was ugly crying in public and I didn't even know why. Well, they do say that gin is the housewife's ruin. I felt nothing, but I was crying as though someone had taken a big ice cream scoop and scooped all of my me out and just left an empty Josie-shaped cone. I found myself saying, no, I'm fine, thanks. Really, it's fine. I don't think it is fine. Everything's not fine. Everything's just a little bit grey.
On B. Trevena to room 4, please.
Green saves me. Green, green, green. Unlike this pristine surgery, the outdoors decays clean. It defies order. The true world is nothing but chaos. Things crawling, climbing, consuming and courting their way along. And yet, I have to stay confined to boxes. Job, bosses, tick box after tick box after tick box on paper. It just becomes scraps. Scraps. You know, it's all digital now, they tell me. And yet scraps are piling up both virtually and physically. And I can't do it all alone. I want to moan, but life gets in the way. And along with the deadlines, the debts pile high and things slide. I was almost late twice today. I was crying in traffic in the rain. I'm fraying. And I need to run.
You know, it's strange when someone says something so small and can make a huge difference. It's one of the most embarrassing moments of your life. And actually, it can make you feel a little bit different about yourself. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not so invisible. has been scientifically proven to help people living with Alzheimer's and dementia. Singing for memory therapy. Volunteers needed. Wait, what? Volunteers?
Not today. This is another attempt to hold on, to find roots. Today I stay and find joy in the small. No matter what the doctor's going to say, today will be a good day. Planting trees with the kids later. That should blow away the cobwebs. Space and laughter and dirt. And a good meal cooked by the fire. And the scraps, well, the birds will get the scraps.
Silent Furby to room 5, please.
Tomorrow, like every other day, I'll start afresh.
Josephine Simpson, room 1, please.
I must go for a swim. Maybe tomorrow. Though, maybe swimming's not enough. Maybe I just need a little bit more help. It's a bit embarrassing bursting into tears in the middle of Tesco's because I haven't got any pistachios.
Jenny Tamar, room 6, please.
There was one. I was able to control it. I knew I could change what was going to happen. I stood on a raft and used a spoon as a paddle board. It was a huge spoon. I made it a huge spoon. I made it happen. A lucid dream, the doctor said. But he gets it. His son died, so he knows. It's the same, but different. We're all different. We're all in that club no one wants to be in. Looks like it'll stay sunny. Get out later in the garden. Shut that monkey up for an hour. The guilt and the what-ifs. Upright. Clean pants on. 1 foot in front of the other. Get here. That's an okay day. Oh, and who knows what'll happen tonight?
Alice Whitcroft, room 3, please.
This could be something. A way to help Gran and others like her by doing what I love. No, I can't. What am I thinking? I'm not the type of person who... But it does sound perfect. No, I can't. I don't have time. Not with Gran's 24/7 care.
Alice Whitcroft to room 3, please.
stuff. Well, thank you very much there to Moments of Choice for that brilliant performance piece there. And for those that maybe don't know as well, that performance piece was specifically commissioned for the Wellbeing event here today, and it features local artists, and it was co-created by Dickie Saray at the back of the room there as well. So can we give them another massive round of applause, please? Amazing. Well, thank you all so much for being here today, and thank you for joining us, whether you're here in the room with us or whether you're watching our live stream online as well. Thank you so much to everyone for being here, and welcome to Wellbeing in a Digital Age, where this is an event that takes a holistic approach to understanding and supporting well-being. And this is 1 week ahead of World Mental Health Day, which is next Thursday. So yeah, we're in for a good day. It's going to be a really good day. And kind of the purpose of today is to kind of break down some of those stigmas around well-being and really look at that connection between mental health and physical well-being as well. So yeah, and we're going to do that today through a range of different things. We've got some incredible speakers coming up today. We've got some really interesting live panel discussions as well. And we have a great musical performance piece coming up later on as well from our Atlantic Roots, which is going to be fantastic. So really looking forward to that. You may notice, for those of you in the room, we've got some exhibitor stands around the outside as well. So please do make use of mingling and go and visit all the exhibitor stands in the room as well. And we've got some workshops coming up later on as well, which is going to be really great. Now, the workshops are going to be for those who are here in the room. So for our online audience today, we want to keep the workshops as a bit of a safe space. And of course, there's logistical reasons for filming that as well. So yeah, online audience, you can watch all of our speakers and live panelists up until lunchtime today. So yeah, it's going to be a really great event. So thank you all so much for being here. I guess I should probably introduce myself at this point. My name's Ross, by the way. I'm going to be your compere of sorts, your host for today. I'll be popping in and out of each of the speakers. So yeah, you'll see a lot of me. You'll be fed up of me by later, I'm sure. But yeah, number one rule today, I'm sure, is just everyone enjoy it, everyone have fun, and if anything goes wrong, just don't come looking for me. That's the rule, okay? Right. So a little bit of important funding news that I want to share with you guys today. So the event today is very... I've got some information regarding the funding. I don't want to get this wrong, essentially. So the event has been developed and is being delivered by the Digital Futures Project, which is led by Truro and Penwith College. And this project actually brings together a very special partnership of 10 different training providers across Cornwall, offering a wide range of part and fully funded digital skills courses, covering a whole range of different levels, from introductory to advanced, online, in-person, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's a really fantastic project, and they cover loads of different subjects, from whether you want to learn about Microsoft Office to coding to AI, all that good stuff. And the partnership really does want to focus and support those currently underrepresented in tech. It is a fantastic project, and there is funding for that through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which allows us to run events like this today free of charge for you guys, as well as the part and fully funded training opportunities across the partnership. So there's a little bit of funding information for you all. I'm going to get a little bit bossy now. I've got a few little housekeeping bits which I just want to share with you before we jump into our first speaker for today. So in terms of pretty standard mobile phones, I'm sure you've all heard this a million times, but if you can just keep mobile phones on silent or on vibrate, we understand you may need to take calls and stuff. So yeah, just on silent and feel free to pop out if you need to. In terms of toilets, I'm sure you've all already passed them. You can find your way, but the toilets just outside across the gallery there, you can find them, no issues. And there is no plans for any fire drills or fire alarms today. Obviously, if an alarm does go off, you know it's the real deal. So please just kind of calmly make your way to the exit points. That will be fantastic. And most importantly as well, some of the subjects we're going to be discussing today potentially may be triggering for some people listening. So if anybody does need to talk or they want to be signposted to different services, please do make yourself known to Dolly. I believe Dolly is in the room here. There's Dolly. Yes. So yeah, please make yourself known to Dolly. She is going to be our listening ear today, and she will signpost you to various organisations as well. Now, as I said, later on today, we've got the workshops and all that happening after lunch today. Now, as you all arrived and signed in today, you would have been given a little ID card, which has got little numbers on, which will allocate you which workshop you're going to attend first. Any issues regarding the workshops or if you're not sure what you're doing, head on over to the signing in desk and they can explain more. But all the informations about the workshops are in your delegate packs, which you can find by just scanning the QR code. And for those watching online as well, we've got that QR code, which we will share with you shortly as well. So, yeah, that is regarding the workshops. Unfortunately, Justin from Immersive Sound can't be with us today. He's from Internal Garden. So if you were hoping to do that workshop first today, we do apologise about that, but we've managed to rearrange things so it should be reflected on your cards, the correct order of the workshops. And last but not least, if anybody wants to get on the socials today, we've got a few hashtags. Feel free to take any pictures or share pictures online. Use the hashtag Wellbeing in a Digital Age and hashtag World Mental Health Day as well. So yeah, feel free to get social. Just get my good side if you're getting me, all right? But yeah, I think that's it for the essentials. I'm going to introduce now our first speaker of the day. Very excited to introduce. We're going to be hearing from Monty, who is in fact recently named Innovator of the Year 2024 at the Royal College of Psychiatry Awards. Now, he's a medical doctor, also a best-selling author. So please put your hands together for Dr. Monty Lyman.
Thanks very much, Ross. Can you all hear me? Brilliant. Ross, you said there were going to be lots of brilliant speakers today, so I look forward to hearing them later. Thank you very much for inviting me, Ross, Julie, and everyone. And thank you to everyone in that brilliant performance earlier. It's wonderful to be here in a very sunny Cornwall. I'm sure the weather's been like this every day for the last 2 weeks, like it has been from where I am in Oxford. And it's great to be here. This is the last time I was at the Eden Project. It was during my honeymoon, so lots of good memories. I'm going to pop down, if that's all right, so I can see the slides, if that's okay with the team at the back, just so I know where we're going. And I'm going to take us on... are the slides up on the screens? Oh, great, brilliant. I'll just give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. I'll give you the TLDR, the too long didn't read or too long didn't listen, which is, I'm going to be talking about the Immune Mind, which is a book that I've written about the relationship between the immune system and mental health and the really exciting science behind it. And in summary, what I want to say is that there's no mental health condition that isn't also physical and no physical health condition that doesn't have a mental aspect. And I'm going to use the immune system as a prism to do this. Julie's given me 25 minutes to do this talk. I could talk for an hour and 25 minutes about it, so I'm going to be very disciplined and we're going to go relatively quickly through it. But I'm very happy to answer questions sort of in the break, and I'll be hanging around there in the break if people want to talk to me about this. So yeah, Ross has introduced me, but I'll just say a little bit about myself. Oh, this is the most Eden Project thing in the world. I can sort of slightly see my slides behind a Monstera plant, which is great. I like it. I can see the prompt, but that's fantastic. So I've been a doctor for about 7 years, so I'm still a junior doctor. I looked up junior doctor on Google Images, and that was the first image that came up, which is quite a realistic I do love my job as well. I specialise in psychiatry, but I also do research at the University of Oxford about the relationship between the immune system, gut microbes, and mental health. So I'm known as an academic clinical fellow. So about 75% of my time is clinical, seeing patients, and 25% is research. And the other 0% of my time, much to the chagrin of my wife and son, is that I do lots of popular science writing as well. And I've written a couple of books, one on the skin, one on chronic pain, and the latest one on the relationship between the immune system and mental health. And they seem quite disparate books on very different topics, but actually the thing that connects them together is the fact that they're all about physical and mental health. We like to, Western medicine historically and our health system likes to box things into the physical or the mental. And I'm going to say why that is problematic and think about ways in which we can get out of those boxes. And to do that, I want to take you on a little tour of my hometown where I'm based. You might be able to, I hope you can see it from the back. So this is Oxford on Google Earth. And I probably should have chosen a red colour because it's not very clear. But there's a little oval around the word Oxford, and that is the old city walls. So throughout most of the city's history, all kinds of medicine that was practiced inside Oxford happened in those walls, apart from the leprosy colony. So near where I live, there is an old leprosy hospital that was just far enough away over the hill so it couldn't be seen by the rest of the city, because people with leprosy, obviously, they were worried about infection, but more than that, they were worried about being made sort of impure by these people in medieval times. When the first physical health hospital was built in the 1700s, the John Radcliffe, that was built right in the centre of town, very nice building. But at the same time, the psychiatric hospital, the Warnford, which is where I work a lot of the time, is built just far away over the hill so you can't see it from the town. And that was the hospital for the wealthy people. The psychiatric hospital for everyone else is Littlemore Hospital, which still exists today, which was a few villages away, not nice and far away from the rest of the city. So you go to back then you would go to one hospital for the body and another for the mind, and that's still the case today, sadly. I'm not going to just do a tour of Oxford in this talk, but this will hopefully make sense. Just off one of these sort of medieval alleys that come off the main high street in Oxford is an amazing Thai restaurant called Chiang Mai Kitchen, and they're not paying me, I promise. And it's in a fantastic old medieval building. And if you go to Oxford, I recommend going there. But when you're cutting up your tom yam or deveining your prawns, you are partaking in a long tradition of dissection in this building, because in the 1600s, Dr. Thomas Willis would take the freshly dead bodies of criminals who'd been hanged in the market square, and he'd take them to this building, and he'd sort of prise open their skulls and delve into their brains. And with his friend Robert Boyle, who's one of the founders of chemistry, he would use some port to sort of stain the sections of brain. And then his other friend, Christopher Wren, who you might have heard of, would draw beautiful pictures of the brain in this book that I was able to look at called Cerebri Anatomy, published in 1664. And he would obviously go on to design St. Paul's Cathedral and things like that. But Thomas Willis is key because he was one of the first people to put the seat of the mind and thinking and things like that in the brain. At the time, there was debate about whether the mind was in the heart or in the brain, and he discovered lots of amazing structures in the brain. So he was one of the fathers of neuroscience. But what's really, really cool is that one of his students, a guy called Robert Hooke, who was famous for lots of things that he did in sort of physics and astronomy, but also one of the first people to use a microscope and look at the microbial world. He was the first person to coin the term cell of these sort of little microorganisms inside us. So he worked with Thomas Willis, and he was one of the founders of microbiology, the study of the microbial world, and immunology, the study of the immune system. So very briefly, the immune system, I'm sure we're all aware of it after COVID, is this invisible army in our bodies that of cells that protect us from viruses and bacteria. But really interestingly, and he wrote a beautiful book with all of these pictures of the cells and things that he discovered in the same year. But just going back, but in the same year that they wrote their books, someone called René Descartes, a philosopher in France, wrote a famous book basically arguing that the body is a machine and the mind is a completely separate substance. And that led to something, I'm grossly simplifying, but it led to something called mind-body dualism, the idea that the mind and the body are completely separate. So for hundreds of years, neuroscience, psychology, psychiatry grew up as a field, and immunology grew up as another field, but they grew up and they grew apart. The really exciting thing is that we're discovering that the immune system and the mind are completely interlinked. So it was thought that in defending the body, the brain defends us from big threats, thinking about our ancestors, saber-toothed tigers, enemy tribesmen, and the immune system defends us from viruses, bacteria, and things like this. But we're going to find out that actually both systems are completely intertwined in any kind of defensive interaction. So I'm going to tell you a few brief stories to sort of illustrate how the mind and the brain are interlinked. So the first one, a completely anonymized case. When I started my psychiatry training, we needed to do a couple of different kinds of psychological therapies, and one of these is CBT. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this, cognitive behavioral therapy, for people with depression. So I had a woman, let's call her Alice. She was a very successful self-made businesswoman in her early 40s. She would often... she had a nice house in Oxford. She'd go off partying and working in New York and London most weekends. But she had some terrible episodes of depression that responded quite well to psychology. So we had a 12-week course, 1 hour a week of CBT, and it was online at the time. And before every session, she would type in a questionnaire about her depressive symptoms, and a score would come up. I think max 27, but her first score before the first session was 18, so that's sort of moderately severe depression. And then as the sessions went on, the weeks went on, obviously the most important thing is how she was feeling in herself, but as a junior doctor myself, a lot of my security lay in the numbers, and they were coming down, so I was feeling quite pleased with myself. And they'd come down to about 8 after about 7 sessions. So that's almost sort of recovered. And then before session 8, I turned on my laptop, waiting for her to go down to 3 or 4, basically to be completely recovered, thinking about how good a therapist I was. And the numbers came up, 17. It had shot straight back to where she was right at the beginning. I was like, gosh, what have I done? What did I say in the last session? She's going back into a depressive episode. What's gone wrong? And then her face came up on the screen, and she said, don't worry, doctor, this week's been a bit of a write-off. I had COVID again. So she had a kind of a mild episode of COVID, lasted a couple of weeks, from 10 days. She recovered. The rest of the CBT went really well. And she recovered. But I thought, how strange is that? A viral infection has caused her to have the same symptoms, as we classify them, as moderately severe depression. And actually, there's a lot of really interesting research that suggests that actually when you're infected, having the symptoms of depression makes a lot of sense. If you think about when you last were infected, most of the symptoms are, quote unquote, mental. Your mood drops, you don't want to go out and do activities, you withdraw into your bed sheets and you just want to watch Netflix. You're sort of grossed out by other people, you don't want to go out and do things. You're really fatigued, your sleep changes. And there's a lot of really interesting research to suggest that actually that this is a very adaptive and good thing in the short term. When you have a virus, you want to rest so that your body can fight off the infection, but also you don't want to go out partying and spreading the infection around your tribe, your herd. So that is a really interesting area that lots of scientists are looking into. And for the book, I ended up going to Sweden and a bit close to home to Wales. I basically got injected with lots of bits of bacteria and put under big MRI scanners and things like that to see how inflammation in the body, an activated immune system, activates the brain. And this is something we call sickness behavior. So the first lesson is that your immune system recruits your mind. And this intuitively seems obvious, but actually, until fairly recently, we assumed that the immune system stopped at the neck. There was no interaction with the brain. But the thing is, when you're infected, it's so important that your brain and your mind responds to these things. And there's a lot of really interesting research about actually how our brain defends us from infections even before we get infected. The idea of why we're disgusted by things that might be rotting or infected, or actually how humans are amazingly adept at detecting when people are unwell or sick or infected, even if we can't describe it in words. But that's another... I'm avoiding lots of rabbit holes I'd love to go down, but I need to crack on. So could inflammation cause mental illness? I'm not going to talk in detail about this, but there's a lot of research, and that's a paper that was published last week, looking at could we treat some mental health conditions with anti-inflammatory type treatments, or lifestyle interventions that focus on inflammation? And the answer is potentially yes in a significant minority of people with depression. And then even a number of, I think some of you might have heard of Brain on Fire. I think it was on Netflix as well. It was a really good, it was a book written by someone who ended up having psychosis and was almost went to a psychiatric hospital with schizophrenia. But it's only recently discovered that some people with psychosis and schizophrenia is caused by the immune system accidentally attacking the brain, and that's a really interesting area that a lot of my colleagues are working on. But you can talk to me about. You can read the book. Actually, I'm not a very good self-publicist. If you want to know more about that, there's a lot about it in the book, or you can chat to me afterwards. So the second story, safari stress. So at the end of today, let's say you've listened to a lot of talks, you've engaged in the activities. You think you deserve a holiday. You know you deserve a holiday, so you go out to Tanzania. You get a 4x4 out onto the Serengeti, and you're just taking some photos of a pride of lions next to your car, and then this happens. Okay, I'm going to move on because it stresses me out. But what happens in that situation? Your whole body is activated. You sweat. Your hairs stand on end. Your muscles tense up, getting ready for violent action, whether that's fighting or fleeing. But we're just discovering as well that actually the immune system's activated in these situations. And this is from a 2006 paper, so that's quite a long time ago, suggesting that things like cortisol, hormones and things like that, when we're stressed, are activated to activate our immune system. We didn't really know much detail about this. I'm not going to go into detail about the thing on the right, but we now have the technology to understand this in much more detail. And what's really interesting, actually, is there's some evidence that when we're stressed, just a stressful thought, can activate muscles. So muscles tense up when we're stressed, but then that can activate antibacterial immune cells to fight off bacteria, which sounds a bit strange. But if you think about it, if you think about our ancestors, things that really stressed them, a saber-toothed tiger, an enemy tribesman, that event was potentially going to involve a break in the skin, some kind of damage, and some kind of requirement for the immune system to act. So it makes sense for stress to cause our immune system to respond aggressively and respond in a sort of antibacterial way, because bacteria will be the things that are getting through the skin. And there are lots of interesting ideas. Maybe this might be the reason why when we're stressed, we're more vulnerable to viral infections, because actually we have more of an antibacterial response. But also, might be how stress and trauma, which is something we'll be talking about later, chronic stress can lead to chronic inflammation, which can cause damage to the mind and the body. The human body doesn't really differentiate. So lesson 1 was your immune system recruits your mind. Lesson 2, your mind recruits your immune system. And so this is the idea of the brain and the immune system being part of a loop. You are part of a loop. Now my third, this is just, we're beginning to map out the cycle. I won't go into detail about this, and we can talk more about the science behind that. How am I doing for time? All right. Couple of minutes. Okay. So this, a brief story about you. Most of you know about Tom and Jerry. So meet Tom, Jerry, and Terry. So Terry is a Toxoplasma gondii parasite, and these have very strange life cycles. They can only be born in the guts of cats, but they live most of their life in another organism. So what happens is, I won't go into too much detail, but Tom is trying to catch Terry, but Tom does a poo at some point. I'm not going into detail. Jerry has a nibble, and Terry goes into Jerry and goes into his brain, and usually Jerry, the mouse, is very adept at avoiding Tom, and escaping. But the Toxoplasma gondii parasite basically makes Jerry act as though he's had a few glasses of bubbly. And actually, there's some evidence that maybe Toxoplasma gondii completely eliminates mice's responses to the smell or fear of the smell of cats. So one morning, you get Jerry wandering over the kitchen floor, completely nonchalant. Tom is ready to eat him up, so that the parasite can go back into Tom and continue the life cycle. Now, that is a very extreme example of a tiny microorganism manipulating behavior. But the really interesting line of research which I'm being involved in is the microbiome. Whether you like it or not, you have trillions of bacteria and viruses in and on you. Your body is their world. Most of them are good. Actually, most of them don't really do very much. Most of them are kind of neutral. A lot are good, some are bad. And we're beginning to understand that actually the microbiome might play a significant role in mental health as well as physical health as well. And I can't go into much detail, but the idea is that we don't know there's no perfect microbiome, but a diverse like an ecosystem. You think about the Eden Project here, a diverse ecosystem is good for health. Diversity begets health, I think, in every single way, from a microbial level to a social level. And I can talk in more detail about that if you want, but it's a very complicated area. There's a lot of data, a lot of noise, not much, well, a bit of signal, but this is a very exciting area in terms of mental health research. Again, more about that in the book. So lesson 3 is you're a community. And I think there's a lot of research into awe and wonder and thinking about the natural world and the universe, which I think is fantastic. But if you think about us sort of physically, the human body is about halfway between the size of the Earth and the size of the smallest bacterium. And I think focusing some of our wonder at the microbes within us, thinking about if you're eating on your own, even if you're eating on your own in terms of eating with humans, you're actually communal dining with trillions of bacteria. You are gardening, you're cultivating a beautiful garden of this community of bacteria within you. And I think there's room for a kind of mindful way of thinking about that. I focus on not thinking about the human body wasn't designed to have lots of nice different organ systems that medical students can study. They were designed together for different purposes. And I talk about the defense system and how you are a loop of brain, immune system, and microbiome. But that's one example. You're a loop of mind, body, and environment. And you can't treat any condition without thinking about all of these elements. And the idea about this is that actually, if your defense system is unbalanced, caused by lots of different things, maybe one or all of these things, infections, gut microbiome, stress and trauma, that can cause chronic inflammation, which can worsen any kind of chronic disease that we sort of label physical or mental. Again, I'll just reiterate what I said at the beginning. There's no mental health condition that isn't also physical, no physical health condition that doesn't have a mental aspect. And when we're thinking about causes and when we're thinking about treatments, humans tend to be like, okay, what's the cause of this? What's the treatment? A very linear thing, but actually everything is more circular. It's more complicated, but more rewarding, I think. And lots of exciting in terms of the future of treatments. So there are lots of ideas about immunological therapies. I haven't mentioned metabolism, and I won't go into that, you'll be pleased to hear. And nutritional psychiatry. Thinking about ways in which we can, new ways in which we can treat mental health conditions. But actually, the equally exciting present. A lot of this science is actually revealing that things like exercise, a balanced diet, community and connection are really, really good for physical and mental health. A lot of this is very intuitive, but actually now we're starting to get the mindset in the scientific world anyway, and the technologies to explore the mechanisms behind this. So I think we're at a very exciting time. And 25 minutes, I think that was just about. Thank you very much. I'm happy to, I've got a Q&A about different things, so I'm happy to answer questions related to various things then, but then I'll also be hanging around in the break on that table over there. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Monty. Brilliant stuff. Right, we're going to go straight into our first panel discussion of the day now. Monty is going to be joining us on that panel as well, and we're going to be welcoming Elliot and Vicky to the stage. So if you guys are happy to come up to the stage as well, can we have a round of applause? You all right? It's a steep ramp, isn't it? All right. I'll let you get settled. Brilliant stuff. Right, guys. Just bear with us as we get settled. So we're going to be jumping into a panel discussion now, and this panel discussion is going to be all about how minority communities and those who are affected by poverty or those who have experienced trauma are disproportionately affected by ill health. And we've got our X Factor judges panel here to digest it all. So we've just heard from Monty, so let's start with some introductions from Vicky and Elliot as well. Elliot, can you give us a little introduction to who you are and what kind of work it is that you get up to?
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Elliot Kenton. My pronouns are he, they, and I'm the People Director for Cornwall Pride, CIO, for the past 2 years. I'm also an educator, a teacher of children with special educational needs. Specialising in neurodivergence, and I run my own community interest company which looks after the transgender and non-binary community of Cornwall.
Amazing. And Vicky as well.
Good morning everybody. Is this working? I'm very softly spoken. My name's Vicky and my pronouns are she, her, and I'm a founding director of CIC Access Cornwall, which supports people with disabilities and neurodivergence, and I'm neurodivergent myself. I'm autistic and I have ADHD.
Can you hear me? Yeah, you've heard enough from me, but I'll contribute.
Cool, thank you guys. Okay, so for this discussion, we're going to be talking a little bit about those kind of minority groups in a little bit more depth and talking about that sort of impact that it has on health in general. Vicky, I kind of want to start with you a little bit because kind of studies do suggest that those with disabilities or those who are maybe neurodivergent, it can lead to a greater likelihood of living in poverty or kind of having generally poorer health outcomes, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. The latest statistics are that 32% of people who identify as having disabilities are living in poverty compared to 20% of the general population. So there is more poverty amongst people who have disabilities, long-term health conditions, and not to trip up over the language, but neurodivergence comes into that as well. And there's obviously complicated reasons for that, but it comes down to finding it harder to get a job for various reasons, difficulty accessing transport links. There's many reasons why, but the upshot is that you might just expect people with disabilities to have poor health outcomes because of their disability, but that's not the reason. It's often linked directly to their poverty and things like unconscious discrimination against people with disabilities that mean they don't get as much health support, access to exercise and healthy activities and nutritious food, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Elliot, I kind of want to sort of bring you into the conversation now, kind of talking about those kind of minority groups and the work you do within the LGBTQ+ community as well. Tell us a little bit about some of the issues that you think are most prominent here in Cornwall regarding the minority groups and that effect that it has on general health.
Okay, so I would say that the rurality in Cornwall, Vicky was talking about transport links as well, so I think definitely access access to your own transport and the need for car sharing, and to think creatively around how to access activities, because it's not that people necessarily don't want to access the community and connections with people. Sometimes it's around the logistics of that, and be that a physical disability or mental ill health being a barrier there. What I found to be most useful within our own community groups and the workshops we run through both of the organisations I work for is open and honest communication. So when I role model the open communication about some of the barriers I might face or some of the anxieties around travelling, I myself am autistic, and I do face some anxiety around travelling to new places, for example, or travelling to new environments. And if I can role model what I struggle with to the people that I'm supporting, I find that can then lead to them feeling more able to communicate their needs in whatever communication method is right for them.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think as well, like one of the barriers that we're kind of looking at different factors here, one of the barriers that a lot of minority groups struggle with is access to healthcare as well, isn't it? And that sort of healthcare barriers and the accessibility within hospitals and other different environments. I know from a physical aspect point of view, there's a lot of issues when it comes to, just simply access starts from the moment you leave your house, doesn't it? So like you mentioned the transport there, but actually getting to in the venue itself, a lot of these environments, they don't have access to hoists or things like this, and it is that kind of ongoing issue for a lot of people with various disabilities as well. I imagine access to healthcare is quite an ongoing issue within the trans community as well, and sort of private healthcare, and obviously linking that to poverty and finance. I guess that's a big issue.
Yeah, that is a significant issue in the trans community or gender diverse community. And in Cornwall, the waiting time currently stands at 7 to 7.5 years. That's from referral to first in-person appointment. So myself, for example, I came out as a transgender person and explained around this to my GP in 2018. I have received one letter through the post around my referral, and just to say that, yep, cool, you are on the list, congratulations, and that's it. So I have been living as my authentic self since 2018. And have seen nobody in relation to gender identity clinics and professional support with healthcare. And that's the Exeter service I'm referring to, so the Southwest service, which is a significant issue. If you're willing or able to travel further, there are shorter waiting times, say in Scotland. So in Scotland it stands at approximately 2 to 2.5 years, but it's the mental and physical capacity to do the journey, and the support network you have around you to access the shorter wait time. And of course, we're talking about 7.5 years to first appointment, but that doesn't include anything, including, say, hormone intervention, etc., because there's a significant period of psychological evaluation that has to happen for a transgender or non-binary individual before any kind of medical intervention would be offered. So you're looking at approximately 8.5 years to anything happening for a gender diverse individual in terms of their transition time, which highlights the importance of community and the work that we do at Cornwall Pride and with my own organisation as well.
Absolutely. And Monty, in terms of, from a science point of view and from your history as a medical doctor, I guess these impacts, it all leads to that, you touch on the trauma and stress, that element of life, essentially. I kind of want to bring you into the chat now, and kind of, again, it's touching on that correlation between your physical health and your mental health. What can you kind of add to that from a more sort of science point of view? because I know in your book you kind of really do reference trauma and kind of that almost isolation and loneliness as well.
Yeah, they're really good points. To kind of, just reflect on something that both of you have said from a clinical point of view. One of the very great aspects to working in the NHS, but by far the worst thing is feeling kind of powerless about referring people on for waiting times that are often measured in years, which is very difficult and very frustrating. From the scientific point of view, there's actually been a lot of research in recent years looking at stigma and oppression and things like, say, poverty, but not necessarily financial poverty. The idea that any individual who perceives that they are being oppressed or marginalised, whether they're a migrant in a new community or whatever, there's now a good amount of evidence to suggest that very process of oppression is, understandably, can cause chronic stress. That in itself is associated with lots of long-term conditions such as like heart disease and things like that, and inflammation in the body is one of the can be one of the key drivers of that. And so we're understanding that actually, these are not just social problems; these are medical problems in the sense of physical and mental. Actually, these are really serious things serious things that we need to work on. And yeah, you mentioned loneliness, for example. That's something we don't often talk about. And there's a lot of evidence that suggests that being lonely for a significant period of time is as bad for your health, your physical health, as smoking. And one of the reasons behind that, the people have looked into it and said, if that's because your diet's bad and things like that, or you've got more of a chance to have a bad diet and things like that. But actually, we are meant to be in community, and that's one way in which our defence system regulates, is in connections, and you're mentioning community. And if we're isolated from a community, even if we're sort of psychologically isolated from a community or a society, the brain recognises that as a threat and as danger. And over a long period of time, that manifests itself in inflammation, in metabolic damage, and then that can cause or worsen physical and mental health conditions. It's all very interlinked, and it basically needs to be taken very seriously from the top, from the sort of governmental point of view all the way down to the bottom, basically.
Yeah, and that is just the proof there that sort of one issue has a knock-on effect of affecting another issue, and it's just that sort of sliding scale then. Let's talk about some other sort of factors that kind of contribute to sort of ill health in society and things like that. Vicky, I guess environmental issues are a big issue as well. We're talking not just sort of pollution, but we're also talking like housing, and if you're living in sort of unsafe or inaccessible housing, we know the housing crisis in Cornwall is huge, especially when it comes to accessible housing. But again, that has another knock-on effect in regards to poverty and ill health, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And you might be surprised, or maybe not surprised, to learn that people who are disabled are actually more likely to be homeless than other people, which was sort of expanded upon in the King's report last year. So that's often down to things like mental health, not being able to advocate and seek help, but also lack of accessible housing, and the whole environment. But it's also lack of access to the wider community that Elliot was talking about. It's really powerful with us too, having access to support in terms of just getting advice on physical health or support with mental health. If you can't get to the local cafe, or if you can't get to your local club or your swim activity because of your disability, be that a form of neurodivergence or being mobility issues, then that means a lot of the people we work with are actually stuck in their houses. We work with people who are in their 20s, some of our volunteers who haven't actually managed to get out of their house for anything other than a medical appointment for 5 years, and they're so lonely and they're so isolated, and we exist to try and help them get out of the house and connect with other people, basically, because it has such a huge impact on their whole life. But yeah, housing is a huge thing too.
It is. And Elliot, I'm aware that there is still this kind of very much a stigma, isn't it, when it comes to certain minority groups. There is this sort of cultural stigma and almost mistrust in certain systems that it does make you kind of lose faith in these systems that are essentially meant to be out there to be benefiting our lives and helping improve things. But it is just this kind of social stigma. It's still there, isn't it? I imagine that you're sort of very familiar with that.
I mean, I feel quite fortunate in a way. That might be a weird answer to your question, but because of the work I do, because of the people I work with, I feel incredibly blessed and fortunate that I do face stigma as a transgender individual and as a disabled individual in society. But equally, I'm in a position that I show up for myself every day. And I think that to show up for oneself and show self-care and self-awareness is a really important thing in order to give your best self professionally and personally to everybody. So in that, what I mean is by feeling able and empowered to talk to the people I work with and the people I love, I then have a good support network around me that I don't face some of the stigmas that other people in my trans community may be facing. So, within that as well, I've been on my gender transition journey since 2018. So there are certain microaggressions that, yes, I still face on a daily basis. Yes, I have longer hair, and yes, I identify as male. And yeah, there are more occasions now that I get addressed as Miss rather than Mr. or a Miss rather than Sir, just because of the stereotypes around external gender presentation. But equally, I'm in a position in my heart and in my brain then alongside my support network that I can brush that off. But the work I do, particularly with transgender female people, it's heartbreaking and it's really devastating to hear some of their stories, particularly around issues with bathrooms. It remains a really, really significant issue, and there are many people in particularly the transgender female community who will not go to the bathroom at all publicly, just because of the paranoia and the fear in their heads about how they're going to be perceived. And that in itself can lead to both mental ill health and physical ill health because of not accessing the facilities you need just for your basic functional needs when you're out and about.
It's a really, really important point you make there. And I think for everyone kind of here in the room today and watching online as well, you may be sort of sat there thinking, well, you know, this doesn't really affect me. I'm not in one of these minority groups or something like that. But actually, I think all of us will be affected at some point by the issues that we're kind of talking about today. It's such a deep subject and we could go into it so much more, but I think all of us will be affected at some point, whether it's through friends, family, loved ones, somebody we know will be going through this. So it's really important we're having these conversations, having this sort of open awareness about it as employers or just as humans in general. It's really, really important. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, but I just want to get kind of one closing final statement from each of you. Just what would you like to see? What would be the main change when it comes to minority groups, looking forward to the future in your different sectors? Monty, we'll start with you. What would be the one change that you would like to see happen?
Gosh, I've think of about 20. But one, I think, is representation. I'm currently working a learning disabilities team, and we've done a really good job of bringing people with learning disabilities into the workforce and can represent people. And it's really good for people, doctors, nurses, physios who don't have learning disabilities to understand more about that and to actually have our patients who see us They can help our patients in very unique ways and things like that. So actually that kind of visibility, I think, is a key thing, but sort of making that happen practically is really good in one team that I'm in, but actually it doesn't happen in lots. So more of that visibility.
I like that. Vicky, what about yourself?
My change is addressed to everyone watching and everyone in this room because it relates to that point you just made, Ross. You might be looking and thinking, well, I'm not transgender, I'm not disabled. The change happens with everyone else helping to remove those barriers. When we go out and do accessibility training and accessibility audits, the changes are so simple, they don't cost much, but it starts with hearts and minds. It starts with you sitting at the table now, realising that you are the key to taking those barriers away. That's the change I'd like to see happen. You can make it happen.
Yes, I like that. And lastly, Elliot.
Why do I have to go last? They were both really good ones. I was just going to say listen, like really listen, actively listen to people who are different. I mean, we're all different to each other, but you may not realise what's going on for somebody. Somebody may look, able-bodied, and you may not know what's behind the eyes. So, I would say just listen compassionately.
There you go. Couldn't have said it better myself. Guys, can we give a massive round of applause for our panellists, please? Thank you. Brilliant. All right, so we're going to take a short little break now. So now's your chance to go and make use of all the exhibitor stands around the room. Go and mingle, have a quick toilet break, do all that good stuff. But we're going to be meeting back here. We're going to be starting again at 20 past. So if you can gather here around about 15:15, we'll see you in about 15 minutes.
My mum just already ate me, but
take time to count the stars, to make the most of life so far. Put the phone away, take time today, thank God for his eyes.
If we say in tune, then you've got to give us props. I'm here.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Can we all start making our way back to our seats, please? That would be brilliant. Thank you. Brilliant stuff. Thank you guys for making your way back. That's great. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we are going to be continuing with our theme of looking at the connection between physical well-being and mental well-being. And we're going to continue that with our next speaker, with our next guest, who is a lady who is a health practitioner. She is a meditation tutor, and she's also a sleep mentor as well. So what a title. I'm going to be watching you all, though, so no napping during this next segment. Okay, she's going to be here to share some of her personal challenges, experiences, and knowledge as well. So can we please have a massive round of applause for Kelly Gilmore?
Hi everybody. Thank you, Ross, for that lovely introduction. And it's so lovely to be here and lovely to see some familiar faces as well as some new ones. I'm just over there, so just come and talk to me about anything that you need to about your sleep. So I've only got 20 minutes to talk to you. So I'm going to hit you up with a lot of information because I think it's so important that I get the message across how important your sleep is to you. And everybody's sleep is completely different, and there's a lot of information online that can be quite confusing. And so I'm here to clarify that for you and help you get the kind of sleep that you need personally. So I'm going to be providing you with quite a lot of information now in a very short space of time, as I feel it's important to the message. So please do come and chat with me through the day with any questions that you may have or for further help and guidance. So why sleep well? Sleep is an often neglected but essential component of everybody's health and well-being. It's often seen as a waste of time, an inconvenience. After all, nothing's happening while we sleep, right? Wrong. Everything is happening while we sleep. So much is happening while we sleep. All of the psychological and physiological processes that help to maintain every aspect of our well-being in our waking lives are actually happening while we sleep. When we look at the processes that happen during sleep, we can understand why sleep is probably the most important factor to be considered with regards to our health and well-being. Sleep lays the foundations upon which we build all aspects of our lives. Our mental health, our emotional state, and physical health are all affected by the amount, the quality, or the lack of sleep that we are experiencing. Poor quality sleep and or not enough sleep can have a negative effect on the way we feel, affect our relationships with family and friends. It can have negative impact on our work life and even cause us to gain weight, become ill, or have more accidents. So why do we sleep? Why do we become unconscious for this period of time every day? Sleep forces us to become immobile for a period of time. Our bodies are self-maintaining organisms. Give the body the right tools and time, and it is excellent at maintaining itself. Sleep gives our body and brain time to do the maintenance, troubleshooting, and repairs that need to be done physically and mentally. Just like when your laptop has been running all day or overloaded with open tabs and pages of information, it can become glitchy, running too slowly, and buffering. We all know that switching it on and off again can help sort out whatever's glitching. And the same thing happens with our brain, our body. Both need some time switched off to reboot, cool down, process, file information, and fix anything that's going awry. How sleep affects our physical health. During the time that we are asleep, there are many physiological processes happening that repair our bodies from any damage caused in the day or to protect us from illness. When we are in deep sleep, our brain dials down from monitoring what's happening in our environment and concentrates its energy on the maintenance work that needs to happen in the body. Food that we eat in the day is synthesized, providing the cells with nutrition. Organs and tissues are provided with the materials and building blocks they need in order to grow and function. The biological messengers, hormones, are regulated, providing instructions throughout the body to tell the organs and systems when to function and how to behave. Immunity is boosted by information updates. Our exposure to bacteria and viruses in the daytime is recognized and processed, stored as memory or communicated to the immune system to ramp up defenses. The glymphatic system in the brain clears away waste products, preventing it from clogging up, which can cause disease such as dementia and Alzheimer's. Now, what about mental health? How does poor or good sleep affect your mental health and emotional well-being? So we all know that getting a good night's sleep helps us to feel good generally, right? But why is this? There are many factors at work when we put our brains into rest and reboot mode when we're asleep. For a start, hormones are regulated during sleep, which of course can affect our mood. You know, when testosterone is regulated to the right amounts, we feel excited and energized. But if we are producing too much testosterone when there's no regulation, then we can become aggressive. Similarly with cortisol, the stress hormone, when we need it to wake up in the morning and we need it to keep us lively and engaged. But if we're not regulating our hormones correctly during not enough sleep, then the cortisol hormone can obviously make us feel really, really stressed. Also, information that we've received in the day, such as people we meet, things we have experienced, information that we have heard or read, all this is processed in the brain when we sleep, turning it into knowledge. It is then stored away in mental folders according to what needs to be remembered and what can be forgotten. Helpful memories such as recognition of faces, smells, pictures, and good and bad experiences are processed and filed away, helping us to make decisions and choices about what we do in the future. Valuable information such as, this makes me feel good, or I don't like this, these all need to be filed away into the mind in the right way. It's like we've got a personal assistant in our heads. I always do this with my clients. I say, right, okay, what's going on with your personal assistant in your head today? Your personal assistant comes into your brain and tidies up the messy desktop of information that's in your mind. All the experiences of the day, all of the information that we take in, it's all stored on that desktop in the mind, and your personal assistant only clocks in to process that and file it when you're asleep. If we don't get enough of the right quality of sleep, that messy desktop doesn't get processed and filed, and we can be left feeling overwhelmed with too much information. So what actually does good sleep look like? Technically, like that. Okay, this is a hypnogram from the Sleep Charity. And we can see here all of the stages of sleep that we go through in the nighttime and the cycles of sleep that we go through in the nighttime, the cycles of those different stages. The stages that we go through are REM sleep, non-REM 1 sleep, non-REM 2 sleep, and non-REM 3 sleep, interspersed with periods of being awake. So what are those sleep stages? What's going on during those stages of sleep? Non-REM 1 sleep, this is what guides us from being awake into sleep. This is when you're dozing. This is when you're sitting in the chair just going like this. And someone says, Kelly, go to bed. No, I wasn't asleep. I was just resting my eyes. Technically, you're asleep, okay? And also during this period, this is when the happens. The hypnic jerks. The sleep starts. If we continue to relax into going into deeper sleep, we go into N2 sleep, which is actually light sleep. So the brain is still active and listening for danger. It's still monitoring what's going on around the room, what noises it can hear, what experiences that's going on while it's in bed, and it's deciding whether to wake you up or not. The personal assistant clocks in at this point and starts to tidy up that messy desktop. So that's when sometimes when we're falling asleep, lots of information can suddenly come up and we can start thinking about it. What I say is leave it to your personal assistant. Let them get on with it. They can do a better job than you at the filing and processing of all that information that you've got in through the day. Okay, you give yourself something else to think about. Listen to some music, focus on your breathing, anything like that. If we continue to go deeper into sleep, we fall into N3 sleep or deep sleep. And this is when all of the physical repairing is happening in the body. This is the maintenance mode. It's a fundamental part of human and animal survival. If we don't get enough N3 sleep, we can't survive. It's as simple as that. If we're woken from deep sleep, that's that period of time when you're really groggy and you're really, it's called sleep inertia. And that can take up to 30, 35 minutes to actually bring your brain into full function mode if you're woken up during deep sleep. We've also got REM sleep, of course. That's if you're watching somebody in REM sleep, you can see their eyeballs moving and rolling around underneath their eyelids. And this is when we have those bizarre, strange images and dreams. And what's going on there is more memory processing and storage. Of course, we've got to talk about the circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is the natural internal body clock that repeats in our brain every 24 hours, actually set to a rhythm of 23.25 hours. But time givers such as light, the sun, and our eating, exercise routines reset this to a user-friendly 24 hours. Our rhythms can be genetically programmed into specific chronotypes, such as night owls or morning larks. And so sometimes, unfortunately, you don't have much of a choice whether you're a morning person or not. It could be genetically programmed. The hormone melatonin is produced in the pineal gland in the brain, also plays part in the rhythm by switching sleep on and off after exposure to light or darkness. So, just a few stats here from the Sleep Charity, just to give you an idea what happens when we don't sleep well. 40% of adults experience sleep issues at any given time. Even if you are not experiencing problems now, it is likely that sometime in your life you are going to experience sleep problems. 1 in 5 GP consultations are directly related to sleep problems, and that's not counting the consultations for related health issues that are caused by poor sleep. Statistics have shown that those who frequently get fewer than 6 hours sleep a night are at significantly increased risk of developing heart disease and stroke. 20% of road deaths are related to fatigue. Studies show that sleep deprivation has a bigger impact on reaction times than after drinking alcohol, which is a pretty scary thing in my eyes. 40.2 billion a year is the cost to the UK economy due to sleep issues in the workforce. And an additional 6 days a year off work is taken by those who sleep less than 6 hours a night compared to those who sleep 7 to 9 hours. But please, please don't lose sleep over losing sleep. Okay, those stats are pretty scary things, but don't worry about it. We can do simple changes that can support you to achieve good sleep and good sleep habits. Keeping a sleep diary is probably one of the best things that you can possibly do. Gathering information about our daytime activities, habits, and nocturnal patterns. We can look at our personal habits and experiences alongside information that we know is beneficial to developing good sleep. And we can see the factors that are affecting our sleep quality and what changes may need to be made in our behaviour or environment. Questions such as, what time did you wake up in the morning? What time did you get out of bed? What was your general activity yesterday in the afternoon or the evening? And what food did you eat and when? These are all really valuable questions to ask yourself every day. Now, I am very aware that I am talking to a room full of people that love technology. Okay, so I am going to address the digital elephant in the room. What about the plethora of sleep technology that's available at the moment? So surely you can just get some sleep tracking tech to monitor your sleep and cure your sleep problems, right? Why go to the effort of keeping a sleep diary? So we're talking about tech-analysed sleep here. We're talking about actigraphy tools, Oura rings, Fitbits, sleep trackers, wearable and nearable devices. And they can give you some excellent insights into your sleep patterns. Sleep disturbances that you may be experiencing in real time, which can highlight potentially unknown sleep disorders that you might have. They can also help increase motivation to improve your sleep habits. But they can also exacerbate anxiety and stress around sleeping, so much so that a new sleep disorder called orthosomnia has been noted by sleep scientists, where people can become obsessive about their sleep data or can develop unhelpful behaviours to up their scores, rather than feel what genuine habits are or aren't working for them. There really is no substitute to getting to know your body and your body's rhythms and your body's habits, which can also give you valuable insights into many other areas of your health and well-being, not just your sleep habits. There are also many factors that affect your sleep habits that a tracker might not pick up on. So factors that are affecting your sleep quality can be whether you're a shift worker, obviously that's going to be recorded, okay? But arguments that you're having as a couple, things like what you are eating in your daytime and what time you're eating. Things such as, do you sleep with your dog? Is your dog disturbing you in the night? And any stress or pain or medications that you're taking, all of these things need to be factored into your sleep diary. So that we can have a look at what's affecting your sleep. So when you've collected information in your sleep diary, what things can be put in place to support a good night's sleep? So on everybody's table, I've left a poster of this for you. So we all know things about, such as mattresses, pillows and sheets. Making sure you've got a comfortable bed is probably one of the most important things. What's in your wind-down routine? What exercise have you been doing in the daytime? And what temperature is your bedroom? So there's many, many, many things to consider with regards to sleep hygiene. And sleep hygiene, good sleep hygiene, is not the same for everybody. Some people need a really dark, silent room. Some people need a night light, and they need to have some gentle music on in the background to fall asleep. Everybody's different. So I was asked to give my top tips for techies with regards to sleep hygiene. Make your bedroom a comfortable space. If you are not comfortable, you are not going to sleep. It's as simple as that. Comfortable pillows, bed sheets, experiment with different fabrics, different textures, different weights, and different layers of bed sheets. Your mattress is the most important purchase of your life. You spend 1/3 of your life on that mattress. Please get yourself a good one. There's many, many mattress companies that will let you try out different mattresses. Okay, they'll even give you a 30-day trial. So make use of them. I've got a link for you later where you can talk to people about changing your mattress. Make your bedroom a work-free space. The bedroom should be a place for sleep and intimacy only. If you have to work in your sleep space, consider what you can do to change it up to make it feel like a different space when it's time to go to bed. Cover the bed with a bedspread in the daytime when working and do a turn down at night time like they do in hotels, just to make it feel different for you. Change the lighting, less bright light and less blue light, more dim light and more red light if you can get a red light lamp. Put work items and work devices out of sight so that when you're dozing off and then suddenly you just get a glimpse of that email that's just come in, get it out of the way, don't look at it. Build an enjoyable wind-down routine. Tell the brain we're going to sleep soon. Set your alarm to go to bed. Most people set their alarm to wake up. Set your alarm to go to bed as well, about an hour before you want to go to sleep. Dim the lights, use blue light blockers, change into your pajamas, have a nice non-sugary, non-stimulating drink, try some aromatherapy, try some meditation. Build yourself a really nice, enjoyable wind-down routine about an hour before you want to go to sleep. And listen to an audiobook or relaxing music rather than scrolling through your phone or staring at a screen to go to sleep with. Waking up at the same time each morning. Expose yourself to daylight or bright light as soon as possible. This is probably more important than going to bed at the same time each night. Waking up at the same time each morning switches off the production of the sleep hormone melatonin and resets the melatonin timer to switch back on in around 15-16 hours to help you feel sleepy in the evening. Weekend lie-ins can disrupt this timer, resulting in Sunday night insomnia, where your melatonin was switched off later in the morning, so it switches back on later in the evening. And another great thing to incorporate into your wind-down time is practice coherent or resonant breathing. So this is consciously slowing your breathing rate down to around 5 breaths per minute. A great technique that calms the body through its powerful effects on the autonomic nervous system. It instigates the parasympathetic nervous system functions, that's the rest and digest mode in the body, and it disables the sympathetic nervous system functions, which is the fight or flight mode. It can be used at any time of day or night as part of your wind-down routine, when you wake up in the night to help you ease you back into sleep, and it can be used as an intervention during stressful or anxious periods in the daytime. If you find 5 breaths a minute uncomfortable, play with 4 breaths a minute, play with 6 breaths a minute. But what I'd like everybody to do is have a go at it, okay, while we're here. So what I would like everybody to do is get comfortable in your chair. Just have a little check-in with the body. If you have any tension in any muscles anywhere, just give yourself a little wiggle or a stretch. And just notice your breathing. If anybody is finding focusing on their breathing uncomfortable at this time, then don't try to control your breathing. Just open your eyes and watch what everybody else is doing. Please only do this if you find it comfortable. So now you're noticing your breathing. Start to sync it up to the chimes. Inhaling as the chimes go up. Exhaling as the chimes go down. Inhaling. exhaling. Inhaling. Exhaling. Let's do that for a minute or so. Okay, and so bringing your attention back into the room, letting go of controlling the breath. Everyone feeling okay? Yeah? Good. So, like I said before, coherent or resonant breathing is a technique that is proven to be able to intervene and used as an intervention to dive into that parasympathetic nervous system mode, the rest and digest. So use it throughout the day. Use it to help you get to sleep, and use it if you wake in the night to get back to sleep. So the summary that I'm giving you today is please, 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 please acknowledge that sleep is not a waste of time, nor an inconvenience, but the most important consideration with regards to your health and well-being. Good or poor sleep affects every aspect of our lives, including our physical health, mental health, emotional state, our relationships, and work-school life. The very best thing that you can do for your health and well-being, above anything else, is to ensure that you get sufficient quality and quantity of sleep. Addressing problems with your sleep habits can change your life for the better in many, many ways. If you are having any problems with your sleep, please ask for help. You can get in touch with me at hello@thesleepmentor.com, and I'll give you a free sleep consultation and let you know how I might be able to help you. You can visit me at thesleepmentor.com, that's my website, or you can visit thesleepcharity.org.uk. There is an online course at sleepstation.org.uk. And you can visit the National Bed Federation, bedfed.org.uk. Call the National Sleep Helpline 033 03 530 541. Read two excellent books, Wake Up to Sleep, Charlie Morley, and The 1 Week Insomnia Cure by Professor Jason Ellis. Practice your coherent breathing. You can get the downloads on naturalsinger.com/breath-tones. And if you want to know more about relaxation and meditation classes, then get in touch with falmouthmeditation.com. Thank you very much. I hope you found something helpful in any of that. Come over and ask me some questions if you have any.
That's great. So we've got another panel now, but while Chris and Matthew come up to the stage, if they're here somewhere, who sleeps with their phone? In their bed, or by their bed? And how many of you use a sleep tracking device or an app on your phone? Is anyone doing that? Okay, some digital sleepers here. Hello, welcome. So this event, Wellbeing in a Digital Future, and the funded programme is about our digital future. And there's kind of no getting away from the fact that technology is playing an exponentially important role in our lives. But is this helpful or is it harmful? And the answer, like a lot of things in our modern world today, requires quite a lot of duality of thinking. And here to help me unpack some of that are two experts. Would have been three, but unfortunately we've lost someone to ill health today. Yes, two experts with brilliantly diverse experience and expertise. We've got Matthew, the Chief Exec of Cornwall Pride and Engagement Director at the Cornwall Voluntary Sector Forum, and Chris, who's the co-founder of Hertzian, a company that develops AI technology for analysing public opinion. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Oh, you are here, sorry. Here she is. I'm sorry. I was told you weren't here. And we've also got Deborah, who works, brilliant, I'm so pleased, who works with the NHS in Cornwall and the Integrated Care Board, and focusing on moving the NHS to a biopsychosocial model of healthcare provision. Thank you for being here. So I'll start with you, Deborah. So glad you are here. Sorry about that. How do you see the role of technology in wellbeing from that healthcare sector's perspective?
Do I have to press?
I think it's on. Should be.
Hi. So I think that what we're seeing now is there's a huge move towards digital consultations. It's also an amazing way of giving information. So we have lots of new roles working across communities. We have health coaches, social prescribers, we have care coordinators who are all very much there to link with communities. Oh, okay. They're all there to link with communities, and a lot of the consultations that they can offer are through digital support as well. We run online groups. We have, across Cornwall, we have online pain cafe, so people can come once a month and learn how to manage their pain in a different way. And we're, developing virtual wards, so we can keep people well at home as opposed to, coming into hospital when maybe they don't need to be in hospital, with a lot of conditions that we can manage at home. And obviously, with digital health, it's finding a balance around using it as a tool as opposed to, and also managing our own health and well-being and using digital applications. So it's a very big shift. And with the Darcy report that came out last week, very much, focusing on communities, it's a brilliant tool to educate people as well.
Great, thank you. And Matthew, talking about that communities thing, how do you see, sorry, lean round. How do you see the evolution of technology impacting inclusivity in communities, and what role do those communities play, or the wider community play in that?
No, thank you. And so looking at communities as lensing on the LGBTQ plus community, and just thinking about the evolution of where acceptance has come from and a conversation has come from, but also an understanding of existence. And it was really interesting listening earlier about the psychological elements of health and your brain, and actually thinking back that whilst as a human being you're told you shouldn't exist in this particular form or this sexual orientation or this gender identity, and you're constantly told this from your social environment, that actually there's a massive impact in there, and where do you find your tribe? So online is a fantastic space for people to find communities. The question, in inverted commas, would be within those communities, where is the safety involved in that as well? But you can create a sense of belonging on an online space. I know from a marginalised perspective, many people spend time on Discord or Twitch and create fantastic communities in those spaces. But then if you're stuck in this digital world, how on earth do you go out here in the beautiful Eden project and spend time with community in a face-to-face perspective? Because that increases different types of endorphins, different types of relationships, different conversations, and you're not hidden away, is the other part of that. So I suppose there is a duality. We have the incredible opportunity to use AI and connections and digital spaces to find tribes, but also for us as a community, it's how we connect with the people that might be hiding away because of discrimination, because of challenges. One of the most amazing, I suppose, anecdotes, but realities is I'm also work for. Well, I'm the trustees board of Black Voices Cornwall, and one of the team will just highlights to me quite specifically, when you open the door, you are your ethnic heritage, you are your identity in this space of white in Cornwall, and actually you have to kind of go, okay, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for those particular types of looks, or I'm ready for those, and you can't hide that, whereas if you can create a safety net in your digital space, you can. So how do we play this role between ourselves of using digital space, but also getting our incredible people out into the community? Like, massive shout out to Man Sheds as well, and kind of all those general community spaces.
Yeah, great, thank you. And Chris, looking towards the future then, how do you think this technology is going to evolve? And what do you think we as a community of Cornish businesses and community organisations should be doing to make sure that the impact is helpful, all these positive things, rather than the more harmful impacts?
Yeah, it's a big question. Digital literacy is really important. Not many people know it, but technology is just baked into everything. A lot of people are worried about AI technology kind of taking jobs and kind of the negative aspects of technology, and there are negative aspects to technology, but there's a lot of good for it. And really, technology should just be an enabler of all the good things that we can have. And we talk about digital transformation a lot, and people are very uncertain and worried about what the future might be, particularly with OpenAI and ChatGPT and things like this. But actually, everybody in this room is really, really familiar with what digital transformation is, because looking at the age ranges in it, I think everyone will remember before mobile phones, perhaps before the internet. How many of you use YouTube to, do a bit of DIY? Digital transformation is everywhere, and it's kind of baked into how we live. And the best way to kind of deal with new technologies being disruptive and coming into jobs, coming into everyday life, is that digital literacy, and actually just kind of being present for the conversation, being agile, not being too afraid from it, because there are some people which turn away from AI, turn away from technology because they're simply afraid of what it might mean, and that's actually the wrong thing to do. I'd recommend to lean into it, see how you can use these technologies to build communities, connect with people, help with the DIY if you're using YouTube for it, whatever it might be. There's a lot of different ways that you can engage with these technologies, and it's really important that we have great events like this, which has been hosted with Digital Futures, so we can have a dialogue about how do we actually use this technology for good, and what is the future of that going to be when we talk about well-being? Because to your point just a minute ago, Eden Project is amazing, and technology can prevent us from going outside and enjoying some of the other things. It can also be disruptive and negative. So it's about, like with all of these things, I think it's about striking a balance. But the most important thing is education and knowledge and having that dialogue. So you're all doing a fantastic job by just being here today to, actually have that conversation.
Thanks, Chris. And so just drawing out that a bit more, and given that this program is about developing skills for our digital future, and those are hard tech skills as well as some of the more human skills, shall we say? I hate the word soft skills. I want to ask you all, what skills should we be developing, or in ourselves, or in our companies, or in our young people, that will ensure that we can leverage technology for all those good things in the future, to improve our own well-being, to improve the well-being of our planet and our communities. I'll start with you, Chris, because you were kind of on an education role. Sure. I'll come back to this time.
So I've got over a decade of experience in AI technologies and the cutting-edge kit that comes out. So a lot of the stuff that you see in ChatGPT is the same technology that we build and develop on Hertzian. So the good news is I don't recommend anyone in here, unless you're in the field of AI, starts reading up on machine learning and neural networks and large language models. There's been a bit of a surge of all this new technology.
Fluid language models?
Yeah, large language models. It's not necessary, but because there's a fear and there's so much emergence, everyone's got a blind panic that, I need to have these skills now to know all of this techie stuff. And you don't really, unless you're really developing it. I think the most important thing is just to have the conversation and take an interest in it. Just like when mobile phones came out, everyone was like, what's this new thing? I don't really know what it is. And it's like, okay, actually, you have the conversation, you look into it, you explore it. You don't need to go into the level of depth that people talk about. And actually a lot of the kind of workshops and things that we run, it's not really about necessarily the tech, it's about the application of it. A lot of understanding technology and using technology is being an expert in your area and then knowing how to apply that technology to that domain area. Excuse me. So you can bring programmers and AI specialists into your business to help implement those solutions, but it's always going to require someone in that industry who knows that domain, whether that's health or finance or marketing, to say this is how that technology is supposed to be used. So don't worry too much about trying to figure out how AI works, because it's not necessary. Focus on the thing that you're passionate about and what your area of expertise is, and then work with AI specialists to implement it.
And there's a skill though around building a network and knowing when to bring the expertise in as well, isn't there? Matthew, what about you? What skills should we be teaching, developing?
I think potentially with younger people, please go into the AI world. The reason why is because I think one of the things around tech and marginalised communities is kind of the structural elements, and you see that across many systems where marginalised communities are disproportionately impacted around health or access to work, and actually a lot of marginalised communities might not have accessed the development of AI. So there's some questions around kind of the authenticity of AI, the bias of AI on the machine learning elements. And I know there's some incredible projects happening at Falmouth University around the ethics of AI and that elements of bias. And, there is a very innate feeling Cornwall's wonderful, and actually the people of Cornwall are wonderful, and hopefully maybe the rest of the world, but we're going to go with it. We're going to go with this a second. And the kind of the thing is, humans are kind. We are wonderfully empathetic people in our families and the relationships that we hold. So it's kind of but the only challenge when you're looking at online is the loudest minority, specifically talking about social media, but the loudest minority are the ones that have these negative inputs into this online space, whereas the rest of us, and if you have a look at some incredible TikToks about, there's some really uncomfortable conversations with toxic masculinity and misogynistic behaviour online. But actually there's an incredible video of this young man just going, do you know what? The rest of these guys, the rest of us guys are really great human beings, but we are plodding on with our lives, getting on with our lives, connecting, building families, building relationships, living our life, not to influence all this negative elements that is being put into online. So again, what we need to teach is how we kind of muddle our way through the mud of that negativity and have a really good understanding that humans are beautiful.
Lovely. And finally, Deborah.
Hi. I'm going to slightly challenge that thinking now because actually what we know is around the world that the only crime that universally has increased since social media and the internet has developed is unwanted touching by men to women, and that has been around the whole world, and it's the only crime that's increased universally, and a lot of that is due to some of the messages that come through online. So I think the skills that to and as we see, 1 in 3 women are going to be victims of some sort of sexual abuse in their lifetime, 1 in 6 men. Teaching people healthy access to the internet, to social media, teaching our young people about appropriate relationships, and actually having some balance. I was told by a teacher about a young person she was working with who's spending 14 hours a day online. So helping people to achieve some balance within that. I would also say that sometimes people find that really difficult, and a lot of the programs are designed to be quite addictive. So if you have a dopamine addiction, that's going to feed into some of those processes. So helping people understand and learn about how to work with urges, how to work with addiction within your workforce is really important, as well as maybe becoming an ally. Male allies are much needed to tackle misogyny in all of its guises, and we still live in a very patriarchal society, and although there's a lot of people doing really good things, like you said, we need everyone doing something, and that's for women as well, where sometimes we use a lot of negative self-talk, which comes across within social media. We buy into kind of a lot of the beliefs about how women should be, and that damages our young people's health, and it's all over the internet. I think they're hit by advertising every 3 seconds when they're online. Now that's very intense. It's like having someone in your face every 3 seconds advertising something you should be wearing, looking like, being. So helping, thinking about when we are creating or working with technology, how is this empowering, people? How is this enabling people? What are the potential harms? And looking at that within your workforce as well. How are we supporting people who may be struggling with those areas?
Thank you. Yeah, I think what you've said is all underlined that intrinsic link between digital technology and social and community structures and systems thinking. So, yeah, that's been really interesting. Hopefully you've left with more questions than answers. Thank you very much to my panellists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much there to Chloe, Debbie, Matthew, and Chris. Can we give them some more love in? Can we have another round of applause? Thank you, guys. Brilliant stuff. Okay, we're going to lead straight into our next guest speaker now. And this is a man who needs literally 0 introductions. If it wasn't for this man, we probably all wouldn't be sat here in this giant clay pit right now. We have got our next guest speaker here to talk all about nature, well-being within the community, and his passion for regeneration. Please welcome Sir Tim Smith.
Formality. Okay, I shall look at it. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I understand I'm talking about technology and nature, but I'd like to start somewhere completely different, which is a book many of you may have read, Black Swan, by Nicholas Taleb, talks about the perversion of our society by not understanding the difference between NEDs and the opposite. NEDs being no evidence of disease, and the opposite being no evidence of disease. So we talk all the time. I'm part of a panel which is looking at nature and mental health. What is amazing is you have a room of people like us, myself included. We so badly want to see that evidence because we know it's true, don't we? But when you scratch the surface on how much evidence there is on which we are basing our emotional desire for it to be so, it's damn dodgy. Everybody who talks about this subject talks about the hospital experiment, don't they? The Wisconsin hospital, where people who looked out of their hospital window at trees with a particular operation, I think it was spleen of some kind, recovered something like 5 days more quickly than those who had a concrete wall to look at. But it was only like 15 people they looked at. This isn't like a huge experiment. And a recent experiment, which I'm sure you're all aware of, which is completely damaging to our belief, is that the impact of well-being on any one of us through looking at a bunch of flowers for 10 minutes is the same as being in nature for a week. The reason I say that is because I'm not saying that there isn't this massive pool of evidence. We just haven't managed to collate it or ask the right question in the way that we would actually demand of other things. Yeah, I'm fascinated by it. I think the best explanation of the impact of the natural world on us comes from Darragh McAnulty. Many of you may have read his astonishing book. He's the teenager who wrote The Diary of a Young Naturalist. And he's very autistic. He comes from just outside Belfast, and he talks incredibly movingly about his parents, who he loves and who love each other. He said, I look at them talk, and then I look at their friends, all these grown-ups, and what their mouths say and what they mean are so different. He said, do you know how that affects you if you're autistic? It leaves you in a world of complete uncertainty. And he said, I discovered the healing power of the local woodland when I went out there and discovered that nature behaves the way you expect it all the time. So I go down to the woods every other day and lie down and look at the sky, look at the trees, look at the birds, and it's like a reset. And we can all understand that, can't we? I mean, it's very easy to understand. Boy, try writing down a research brief. How the hell do you write that? And I'm not sure how you write that. It's just that it's something that I should guess everybody in this room would probably... Well, let us see. Does everybody in the room believe that regular contact with nature, however we so describe it, is going to be net beneficial to us? Is there anybody who disagrees with that? Is there anybody yearning to be in a concrete bunker? You know, you never know. So anyway, where I'm going with this is that I want to present to you a picture, because I have the benefit of having you captive for 15 minutes. Whether you like it or not, I can say what I like. So I want to talk to you about my worldview and why what you're talking about is really important. But it starts with a proposition, which is that we are living today at a better time than at any time since we went down onto the savannah. That we are living an enormous lie, a desire to find the bad in the world. And the reason we want to find the bad in the world is because neurologically, we know as little creatures held together by neurons and a biology that we feel far too safe. We feel far too smug, and that is very, very dangerous for a creature. If you start to feel like that, a wolf will rip your throat out. Therefore, we invented tabloid newspapers. And tabloid newspapers, they have one matrix only. If it bleeds, it leads. It will only give you bad news. My late mum, who lived in Ascot for flip's sake, believed there were crack dealers on her drive. She believed it was an almost certainty that if she went to hospital, even if she didn't need an operation, someone would leave a tool inside her body. Seriously, that is how it is affecting us, our nation. And a lot of it comes down also to this, the digital phone. 17 years it has taken. Anybody who believes you can't change the world quickly, this was invented, the smartphone, in 2007. Just think about the speed of that. I mean, it took a lot longer for flight, didn't it? But I'm saying that because we become so crazed with the word digital, a bit like my mum used to talk about pop music. You know, digital, if it's digital, it must be, especially middle-aged men. Digital is so important. It's got a kind of sex to it. It's digital, you know. We've got a digital marketing team. Jesus, we have one here. Most companies I've been on board with have got digital marketing teams. It doesn't make them any more intelligent. It really doesn't. Because actually at the heart of all of this is what Dr. William Bird says, who's the head of our Nature Connection charity here. He said, it was astonishing. He came down to Eastbourne to talk to a crowd. We're doing a project in Eastbourne related to Beachy Head and the suicide levels at Beachy Head, and what natural intrusions could you make or installations could you make that distract people in a particular way. And William Bird got up in front of the council and all the headmasters and mistresses of the schools of East Sussex. He said, I'm a GP, and you know what? I don't really care if my patients smoke very much. I don't really care if they drink a bit too much. And to be honest, at a pinch, I don't care whether they take drugs. He said, you know why? Because 100 times more people die from a lack of sense of belonging, a lack of a sense of purpose, and profound, irredeemable loneliness than all the rest put together. Human connection is everything, and many of you have been alluding to that. But it's funny, I can capture a room. I had all my team in here last year, and I was talking about connection, and everybody was being digital. He's bloody waffling on, you know. And I then dropped the bag that was on my shoulder on the stage. It was a small bag. And I dropped it on the stage, and it made a hell of a bang. That got their attention. And I said, I'm going to give you something to fondle which you will never forget. That caught their attention. And I took out of my bag a meteorite. And I said, this meteorite was flying through space billions of years before the formation of planet Earth. And I will stop talking the moment you have passed this meteorite, past each of you, hand by hand. And as you touch it, think about time. Think about eternity. I then talked about that fantastic book by David Eagleman, Some, which starts with a vision of eternity, where he says, imagine you can choose your death. Imagine all the people that you can have as your companions in the afterlife. He said, now, imagine eternity. Lesson to self, get out more, meet more people, you know. But anyway, I had to stop speaking because they weren't looking at their phones anymore. They were just waiting for that meteorite to be in their hands. The following year, this last year, I thought I'd make it really sexy, and I gave them a megalodon tooth. That didn't even get halfway round. You see, they were touching it. They were feeling it. I'm going to interrupt myself. Do you know, I wonder if anybody in this room would put their life, their pension, on answering this question. What is the most visited, and where is the most visited museum in the world? You guys don't rate your houses much. I'll tell you. It's at Schiphol Airport, Amsterdam. And it is a room, probably as long as from there to there and about as wide as up to you. And it contains the 20 selected masterpieces of choice by a person from the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam. No one can resist it. Of course, there are a lot of plane delays, so you've got a pretty captive audience. But 17 million people a year go into that museum to see a very few articles. Each one has a story. Amazingly, it's not actually amazing to any of you. Amazingly, the stories are written for children, not adults. Anybody who's ever been to a museum that reads the interpretation for the children will realize, why read the stuff for adults? The most offense I've ever given was when I was taken around the Met Museum in New York by the people who had just given 500 million to do the Egyptian wing, and they asked me what I thought, and I said, it's the most fucking boring thing I've ever seen. But it was so dull. It was predominantly, I hate to make this my canon, middle-aged men trying to prove to other middle-aged men that they knew a thing or two. Any normal person going around the museum was saying, Jesus, the Egyptians were big on death. It was all about death, about which bit of the urn would carry your gizzards and which bit would, how did you dry out a tongue or, all those really important things for life. You had no sense of what the Egyptians were about or anything. Yet, when you see children interpret things, I've seen a huge exhibition in China interpreted by children, and there were also adult things. No one was looking at the adult things. I am making a point. Stay with me, okay? Because interpretation and the way you tell stories is utterly vital to everything. Nobody wants to be a victim. We all want to be an us. We all want to feel that we are part of something, and just a little bit. What a tragedy for us that our whole vibe when we study ourselves is we're individuals. It's about individuals and choice. We even sometimes talk about being consumers. How degrading can we be to describe ourselves as consumers, like no better than a pig at the trough? We're actually citizens. We're also, if you like, whatever word actively conveys tribes people of a group of people that's quite porous at the edges, stress porous. You do realize in nature there are hardly any straight lines at all, and yet almost everybody who works in medical science, or indeed mental science, seems to think we live in rectangular boxes, as if our lives were designer-branded Swedish health center. It's a very weird world. So, the reason I talk about interpretation is that the less I find you interpret... Oh, I've got to interrupt myself again. I had the terrible misfortune when we built Eden of allowing my typically middle-aged male vanity to accept an invitation from the Department for the Regions to go and speak to the RDAs in every region of Britain. All expenses paid. Nice train ticket. English breakfast. God, the tedium. You will be amazed to know every single part of Britain, every single part of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland has a part of it that is going to be the next Silicon Valley. Did you know that? It's astonishing. And the thing they all had in common, because I checked, is that all the people who wrote this shit had never been to Silicon Valley. They had no idea why Silicon Valley was Silicon Valley, but they knew it was like the lodestone. They had centers of excellence. They did leading edge, cutting edge, bleeding edge thinking. It was all so exciting. And they did joined up thinking. And they thought out of the box. Wow. And you know what the final thing was? The thing that I could hardly resist was they were daring to think the unthinkable. How is that possible? I say all this because when we are talking about nature and the digital world and the way that the digital world can make us look at things afresh, it's a bit like people who say to you without thinking, the world is so fast today. Anybody who says that to you, give them a really quick around the gizzards. It's no faster than it's ever been. Look, old son, what you're doing is skating over the surface. You're getting shallower and shallower, taking more and more and more, and nothing is sticking. Nothing, therefore, has meaning, really. You don't feel much. I was asked recently at a business conference about the biggest mistakes of my life. And they were expecting some deeply profound insight into business psychology or entrepreneurship. And I said, no, there's no business decision or work decision I've ever made that I couldn't undo. Let's be honest, if you're pretty smart, and everybody in this room is pretty smart, if you make a mistake like that, you're clever enough to be able to pretend you said something else and then you rewrite the history. No, the only thing you can't rewrite are the things which are actually basically fundamentally human, like believing the crap that old people tell you that you don't need to go round. You've got far too busy a life. You're so successful. You're a young person making your way. Then the next thing you know, they die. That you regret. And it's those lessons you need to convey to people about meaning and purpose and belonging that are the real fundamentals. The thing about getting out into nature is kind of, I think it's almost, I don't know how many people, do you write songs or tell stories or make speeches as you walk? I do. I mean, it's that rhythm, isn't it? Dunk, dunk, dunk. And you just compose stuff, you think stuff. And we're working on an app with Deborah Mead and Ben Goldsmith called Wildlings. And it's about a whole group of people like us telling people where the coolest places are, where you feel most relaxed, where you can go, where it's legal to go, how to do it and be safe, to write what you felt about various things. But please don't use cliches. And the amount of sign-up, I mean, we had the National Trust joining in, we got RSPB joining in. But all it is a cafe like us six meeting and saying, where do you find it nice? Where's it good? You know, the best place I've ever been to is in Anjou, near what's the place called? There's a big castle there, Angers. Angers. Was a derelict castle, and the people of Anjou decided it should be a tourism information office. I've never seen anything like it. It's not a tourism office like I've ever seen before. It was written by, it says it's a love letter from the people of Anjou about why they love Anjou. And there's hardly a theme park or anything in it. It's about the little house on the top of the this and the forest and that particular tree. And then there's this amazing place that makes you want to weep. The map of Anjou and places where people ask people to marry them. How cool is that? You know, where people's favorite picnic spot was. Now, I've never seen people hang around a tourist information office before. You know, not normally, not like for an hour. So why was that? Aren't we all fascinated in the making human of the landscape and creating meaning in it? I know I'm rather labouring the meaning bit, but I tell you what, here, again, I make the joke as if I'm some arrogant twit, but I love the fact that you have certain rights when you run a place like this. Now we have the big sessions here, and every so often I create these what look like business cards and give them to people who are here. 1 year it said, you will be shot tomorrow morning. Tonight you may dance to the last dance of your life. What tune will you choose? Nearly brought the gig to an end. People are so interested in what other people think and what moves them and motivates them. This crowd of people who hardly any of them knew each other were just swapping cards. It was like a business convention. And I had a bunch of people from a school not far distant to here where the staff room had fallen out big time over whether to become an academy that had music as its central thing. And there were two teachers who were senior teachers who had fallen out so badly they weren't speaking. And I invited them all to come and have a glass of wine with me in the Mediterranean biome. And I did that trick on them all with the card. The two teachers, flipping hell, they chose the same song. And when they discovered this, they couldn't stop talking. Isn't that funny? The reason I'm being so chaotic about all of this is because I'm starting to become allergic to pattern. And I've always been allergic to pattern. I'm pretending it's a new disease for me. But 2 days ago, I was at Canary Wharf. We were opening the Eden Dock, and we were right at the top of the Canary Wharf building, looking out at what's going to be number 1 Canada Square. And it was me and this guy who was the governor of the Bank of England talking about stuff. And we were talking about sustainability. And everybody was being very grown up, you know, about, well, materials this, materials that, carbon that, you know, biodiversity net gain. The interesting thing was all these people were city people predominantly. They had maybe had a little place in the country, we know, but they didn't really know the country. And they were absolutely gobsmacked. And I said, are you aware there is more biodiversity in this square mile here than there is in most of the fields of Devon? Are you aware of how much we have trashed the countryside? And yet the green brand, the fields of Devon or Northumberland or whatever, get all this the big push. But the truth is, our cities are wilder than anything you ever imagined. So we just started talking about diversity because they spent a fortune greening the middle of the square. And what's really interesting is to see all these guys who are investing literally billions, not even hundreds of millions, on stuff, suddenly realizing that everything they are looking at could well become almost worthless in a short period of time. Almost all these amazing flash buildings are now only about a third full because people are voting with their feet. They don't want to go into a place that's got so little life in it, so little patterning. And also, many of you will be aware of Thomas Heatherwick, the designer. Do you know Thomas Heatherwick? Thomas is the guy who did the Olympic torch, the British Olympic torch, which is very cool. And he did the B of the Bang and whatever. He did the seed pods in the Shanghai Expo, you know, that building made of seed pods. He's probably one of the world's top designers. And he launched a book, which if you haven't read it, it is the best investment you can make professionally, probably in anything. And the book is called Humanize. It came out last October. And it's a brilliant essay in exactly what all of you are interested in. He decided, because he had a bit of money, that he was going to create headsets with neurological sensors that you could put on people and sent them walking around the middle of Chicago and the middle of London. And the neural responses to a wide range of people looking at those expensive monuments to testosterone and money in the middle of the capital, right? The response was really close to what you would recognize as manic depression. That lack of... the funny thing is that rectangles, squares, and shininess is actually really antithetic to the human condition because we know it's not natural. And he was showing the difference between various designs where you had very soft edges or things weren't perfectly matched or perfectly symmetrical. Because in the natural world, hardly anything is symmetrical, but we have persuaded ourselves that it is. It's very odd. It really isn't. Look at a tree. A tree, if you sit under a tree and look up at it and stop thinking, oh, that's a nice tree, and then look down and have a sandwich or something, but really look at it, what a bonkers act of creation is that? It is utterly flipping mad. You see where the branches go and then the twiglets come off and the leaves? Why was there no all-seeing God to get that looking shape? And children then would grow a tree which has a straight line and everything going off it, which doesn't look like a tree at all. And then parents do the worst bit of parenting ever. They then tell kids, what a lovely drawing. We had a lecturer here last year who was saying that the damage that parents do their children by thinking that praise is a good thing. What you should have said is, you really think that looks like a tree? Fuckwit. Oh, no, you wouldn't use that, of course. But you know what I'm saying. Because a cat does not look like a big circle with a small circle and then 3 straight lines coming off its snout, does it? I mean, it really doesn't. Observe these things. Sorry, I have digressed a lot, but I thought you were hearing far too much serious stuff which was going to exhaust you. Therefore, I thought I'd go for the light magazine approach. To tell you how serious this is. But the really serious message is in trusting what you feel inside yourself. Too much percentage talk, too much we've done this digital could be really bad for your health. And yet everybody in this room knows, is there any joy, whether you're a city type or not, bigger than putting your hands in the soil and feeling potatoes that you bring to the surface? There's not much better than that, is there? Or pulling herbs. Here we have a great scheme with people working in the gardens. The problem is you get a load of money to put people in gardens to have what we might call as a therapy. What happens is, you know what they do? They do something outrageous. It's like our COPD group. You came here to learn to walk for more than 1 meter without getting out of breath. We want you to walk 5 meters. That's success. But you know what they call success? They call success having a whole bunch of people who encourage them to go from 1 metre to 2 to 3 to 5 to 10 to 15, and then they now all go on holiday together. It is the oddest, most profound thing you've ever seen. Seriously, our COPD group's got about 70 people in it, and they're like closer than a family. And it's astonishing seeing someone come here who can barely walk a few steps, and having this whole group of people going, come on, and then they do one more step, and then one more step, and then by the following week they're going 5 and then 10, and they're looking forward to coming. We all know that's how we'd be, isn't it? That's how we'd be. But with the horticultural thing, the really big problem is they love being in nature. Of course they do. But then when they discover there's only money for 1 day a week, the melancholy, you know, it's a bit like someone who quit smoking every day. I quit smoking, it made me miserable. And so I decided to take up smoking, but become addicted to not smoking. That's a really good, cool thing. Every so often, I have a cigarette, okay? God, I like it. But you know, when I feel like the second one, I go, no. And I get a bigger kick out of being able to say no than the first cigarette. But I have to have the first one to be able to enjoy the second not one, you know. Why am I talking like this? Yes, sorry, So the point actually that many of you would have been making about the collective community, the word community, which of course you should punish people who use the word community, meaning it's a line around a whole bunch of people. It comes from 2 words, communos, together in gift. It is active. You cannot be a community if you're not giving anything to it. You can't. You can be something, but you won't be part of a community. What we discovered with our horticulture project was that you can't hold out the thought that you can come and do some gardening and then actually it's a tea break and everybody has tea together. That tea break might be far more important even than the gardening because you're sitting with a whole bunch of people, you know. We all know this. I'm telling you what you already know. But then at the end of the day, you've got to go home and wait for 6 days before you can come back. Now, that's a really interesting point. How do you create, we're struggling with it at the moment. How do you create an environment in which those that most need the nurturing thing of being in nature, but also being in companionship, how do you foster that in a way which it almost inevitably leads you to the shock of, say, budgetary constraint or policies which mean that you can't do it? How can you create a kind of interlinking between being the receiver of, I hate to call it a service, call it an opportunity, the receiver of an opportunity to be in this place. But in return, you have to be a helper for other people receiving it on the other days. And in return, you can have the cup of tea and the lunch and all the rest of it. And we're struggling with that because when you see how many people really, really do blossom under those things. It's your profession, not mine, but it is very moving to see it. And when you see that, you suddenly realize that part of this is the brain work of being able to structurally plan things. How can you do the logistics of enabling us to make people, first of all, less unhappy, and then plainly, slightly contented, and then confident? I don't know quite how you do a sort of hierarchy of that. And it's one of the things we're struggling with because obviously we're all, you especially, are constrained by financial constraints. But how can you break down the lack of finance and take it away from being your excuse not to care or give? Or worse, how can you stop it bruising you because you really want to and you feel ashamed that you can't? And I think most of us don't have the luxury of someone realizing it's really worthwhile to give people like yourselves the time to think about strategies to do this stuff. So you will notice I've not talked about digital impact on nature and natural cures and nature connection. I did that because it bores me to death, simply because I know that if you're as good as I know you all are, there's going to be very little I will tell you that you don't already know. So why don't I take the pleasure of telling you a few things you might not have known, and then later on, when I know a few things that I might know that you don't, I'll come and speak to you again. So there you are with my excuse for not talking about the digital age. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, brilliant stuff. Big thank you there to Sir Tim for that. A few naughty words slipped out as well there, so I will just apologise on behalf of Tim there, but thank you very much. Right, time for our next speaker now, who is the clinical lead for health coaching and personalised care for NHS Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly Integrated Care Board. She is going to be joining us now to talk a little bit more about social prescribing and what digital support services are available out there. So please welcome back to the stage Debbie O'Nions, please.
Hi. Microphone working this time? Yeah, all good. I might just actually jump down so I can actually see my slides. Okay. So, yeah, I just wanted to take an opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about community and health and wellbeing. So, many of you have probably heard of social prescribing. Has anyone not heard of social prescribing? Everyone's heard of that now? So social prescribing actually isn't anything new. It's always been around for many, many years, since I've been in the NHS, which is a very long time. And it's something that anyone can do, which might be a slightly controversial statement, because it is just about connecting people to their communities, to connecting people to opportunities. And, you know, in Cornwall, we have amazing communities and there's so much happening. We actually tried to create a website to capture everything that was happening about 10 years ago. And it was so fluid and such a shifting landscape that it was impossible to do because new opportunities were coming up all of the time. We do have some challenges in Cornwall with regards to, you know, the rurality. And obviously cost is an issue for a lot of people. So alongside social prescribing now and the social prescribers that are attached to every GP practice across the county, thank you. People also have can have access to small personal health budgets, which may enable them to start to access something that would really improve their health. And we've started to see a real difference that's making for people in enabling them to, one, prevent them going into hospital, two, help them get out of hospital, and also keep them well at home. So I mentioned earlier that in primary care now we have these three new roles: social prescriber, we have health and wellbeing coaches and care coordinators. And so the social prescriber is really there to help you look outwards, I would say. That's the way I describe it. To look out into your community, look out at what's around you and support you on that journey to finding out what is the thing that lights you up? What is the thing that you love to do? And sometimes that takes a while to find, doesn't it? You know, I've worked with lots of people doing this over the years. And, you know, how often does someone sit down with you and say, what do you love? Like, what's your dream? What do you wish for? What did you used to love doing when you were younger? You know, when I was young, when I was at school, I was obsessed with dancing. I danced all the time. I used to drive my mother mental because I would be constantly thudding upstairs in my bedroom, making up dance routines, pushing the furniture around. And I was never happier than when I was throwing myself around like Kate Bush. And I stopped dancing when I left school. I wanted to be a dancer. There weren't many opportunities in Cornwall at the time, so I became a nurse instead. But never, ever found anything which lit me up in the same way as dancing. And then about 17 years ago, I saw a local theatre group, a dance theatre group called Shalal, performing. And it was actually at County Hall, and I was, there in my professional capacity, and I saw them perform, and I was like, oh my God, I want to do that. And I went over to them, and I just said, how can I work with you? And so I started working with Shalal. I retrained, and it changed my whole life. I felt that joy, that passion again that I had when I was younger. And luckily, I was really motivated to go out and find that for myself. But what I found is that lots of people just get a little bit lost in reconnecting with that part of themselves. And sometimes we forget that joy. And so now we're really lucky we have health and wellbeing coaches in primary care. And their job is to really, they can work with people for up to 10 weeks, really sitting down and finding out what it is that people love, what they want to do, is important to them for their health and well-being. So it's very much working in partnership with people where you are the expert in your own body, where you bring what matters to you to the conversation. And then I could describe it like you go on a little journey together, and really work to bring back into your life the thing that lights you up, the thing that's going to keep you well, that's going to keep you happy and healthy. And then we have care coordinators who, again, are there, if you have needs, which many people have more than one long-term health condition. In Cornwall, we have a really large population of people who are over 65. Many have 3 or more health conditions. It can get really complicated using the NHS. So again, we have care coordinators who can help you to coordinate your medical appointments, who can be your point of contact. And that's a brilliant opportunity. We also are quite unique in Cornwall. We've introduced something called Community Health and Wellbeing Workers. And they're there working with specific communities, some of our most deprived communities in Cornwall. They're creating opportunities. They go around knocking door to door saying, do you need support? Is there anything we can do to help you? And they stay working with people. They're not just there for a few weeks. They will work with people, over years, and they don't go away. So it's a long-term support network for people. And to have that in our most deprived communities is a massive asset, and they're starting to make some incredible differences for people. And again, they're linked back to social prescribing, creating community networks. They create events. So technology has a significant part to play in that, because what we found is that sometimes people will respond to a text message where they won't respond to us sending out a letter inviting them to something, but they'll start by responding to a text message. They may answer their phone. They may agree to an online appointment. I've certainly had lots of appointments with people at first where they wouldn't turn their camera on. They didn't want to actually meet anyone face to face. And slowly they'll build up confidence until they're ready to connect with the outside world, because sometimes people become quite socially isolated. Certainly through COVID, this was a massive problem. So technology has a massive part to play in how we can connect with people in the NHS and the wider community, and helping people because some people are just feel not well enough to leave their home. Some people are not able to leave their home because they're bedbound. And digital technology can be a massive asset. It may be the only way someone can connect with the world is the online world. So, it has a really important play in future healthcare. We use it for assessment. We use all sorts of tools. If someone's at risk of falling, if someone's at risk of falling out of the bed. We have all sorts of technologies which are supporting people. So digital inclusion, which has already been mentioned, is hugely important, and there is a digital inclusion team where if people are struggling to access technology, if they don't know how to use it, Cornwall Council has a digital inclusion team that can support people. And we know this is still a massive issue. Cost is a massive issue. For many young people, we know that digital inclusion actually is having an impact now with the cost of living crisis. And just finally, I want to talk about, we also, for people with chronic pain now, have a digital online pain cafe. So if people, and many people do suffer with pain, and it's something we kind of put up with. And in the tech world, actually, you're at higher risk of MSK pain. So well worth making sure that you know how to prevent that in the long term. I'm just going to get that in there. We have a digital pain cafe, as well as pain cafes across Cornwall that anyone can access. So you can self-refer to, and you can come along, learn how to prevent pain, learn how to manage pain, and connect with other people who may be experiencing something similar. So I'm just, these slides I'm sure will be shared afterwards. So all of the information on how to connect with any of those things will be on those slides. And I think that's it from me. So that's a quick whistle tour of social prescribing and the wider primary care community. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Debbie there. Thank you. Okay, guys, so I get to introduce now our final act before we have our break for lunch. Very excited about this one. So this next act is a bit of a musical performance. Now, this is a married duo who are Cornwall-based, but they've been singing and songwriting together for over 10 years when they met in North Carolina, I believe. And their sort of music kind of blends that alternative folk, a bit of American British vibe. And yeah, they've had over 4 million streams online and hundreds of live performances under their belt as well. So I'm very excited for this. And the great thing about these guys as well is that they talk very openly and honestly as well about their experiences and challenges with mental health and well-being. So please put your hands together for Our Atlantic Roots.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. That was I'm impressed that you remembered all that information. That was very good. One of the best intros, thank you. Well, it's a real privilege to be with you here today and to have heard just about so many themes that kind of run through our music and themes that we're really passionate about. Mac and I are passionate about using the stages and platforms that we've been given to share a message of hope and to kind of break down barriers between like the people on stage and the audience. And we love to talk really openly about our journey through life and about the struggles, the highs and the lows. And Mac wrote a song that has become particularly popular, and that song's had over 2 million streams. So a lot of those 4 million streams are this one particular song that has resonated with a lot of people, and it came out of a difficult time. So Mac's going to share a little bit about that.
Hey everyone. So this song is called Carry On, and it's one that I wrote a few years ago now. I was struggling with an anxiety disorder. I was having really severe panic attacks every night for months on end. And I remember I wrote the song one particular night. I was home alone. I felt the kind of symptoms, my hands going sweaty, my throat closing up, and I was starting to breathe quite frantically. So to try and keep myself breathing in some sort of normal rhythm, I just thought I'm going to go grab my guitar and I'm going to try and sing. I'm going to try and get something out. And the only thing I could utter was "Stay true, stay strong, and carry on." And those words to me meant, at the moment, in that time, it really felt quite hopeless. Like I was never going to kind of get through that season. It felt like I was just going to have to deal with it forever. I was going to be living in that forever. So it felt very hopeless, but I knew that that wasn't the truth, and that if I kept moving forward, that I'd eventually see a light at the end of the tunnel. But I knew I'd never get there if I didn't keep moving forward. So those words, "Stay true, stay strong, and carry on," were just kind of an anthem of hope to myself, an encouragement to keep putting one foot in front of the other, no matter how tough things got, no matter how dark the season got, believing that if I kept moving forward, that I would find the light at the end of the tunnel. And I love getting the opportunity to share this with people because I felt very isolated and alone going through that. Like I was the only person, that I was going crazy, that if anybody knew what I was actually going through, if they knew the real me, that I would be rejected or outcast. And that's just not the truth. And I meet people all the time that encourage me and say, thank you for sharing. So yeah, I just thank you guys for giving us this opportunity, and I hope you enjoy this song. And if you do need to hear it today, no matter what you're going through, we all need to kind of hear an encouragement to just keep moving forward sometimes, and that you will eventually reach the end of that tunnel that you're in, and there is a light in every situation. So I hope you enjoy this. This is called Carry On.
Time is a strange thing, taking its toll. It never gets weary and it never lets go. Time's taking over everybody and mine, but it can't take your joy, 'cause your spirit won't die. Stay true, stay strong, and when it's tough, carry on. Don't let the weight of life bury you. Though you have your doubts, it'll all pan out. So stay true, stay strong, and carry on. Time is a river with a one-way flow. You can't swim against it, so just learn to let go. Time is persistent and can take you so low. And though it takes your body, it can't take your soul. Stay true, stay strong, and when it's tough, carry on. Don't let the weight of life bury you. Though you have your doubts, it'll all pan out. So stay true, stay strong, and carry on. When life has got you down and you feel 6 foot underground, remember, this ain't where the story ends. 'Cause there's so much left to say from our first immortal days. So stay true, stay strong, and carry on. Stay true, stay strong, and when it's tough, carry on. Don't let the weight of life bury you. Though you have your doubts, it'll all pan out. So stay true, stay strong, and carry on. Stay true, stay strong, and carry on. Stay true, stay strong, and carry on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So as well as having some songs like that that relate very much and very with like clear mental health stories, we write a lot of music that's inspired by nature, and we personally find that being out in nature is really helpful for our mental health, and just taking time to be away from our devices and actually notice the things around us we found to be really healing and really good for us. And this next song, Golden Hour, we wrote during the first lockdown, the strange time that was, and as musicians we found ourselves with a lot more time on our hands. And actually, a lot of Mac's anxiety stemmed from health anxiety. So when we heard the news about COVID, we were like, oh, this is going to be a challenging season, like mentally. And actually, quite the opposite happened in that, there was a few bumpy moments and a few times where there was some anxious thoughts. But the slowing down that season provided and the kind of getting outside and kind of having more time to notice the flowers grow and notice the seasons change was actually something that was really beneficial for Mac's mental health. And it's something that we like to talk about and share about with our songs. So this we wrote as we were on our daily walk by Fistral Beach. And we were just struck one day by how the birds were chirping, blissfully unaware of the chaos in the world. Like, the birds didn't care that there was COVID going on and that our schedule was all flipped upside down. And we noticed how the tide was coming in and going out, and just kind of focusing on those things and actually listening to the bird song and like watching the leaves fall in the autumn. It just really helped our mental health. So I think that's something that we love to share with people and love to share in our music. So we hope you enjoy this. This song is called Golden Hour. It's just about enjoying the simple things in life and holding every moment dear.
Flowers still bloom in the sunlight. The moon still pulls the tide. Shadows still dance on our bedroom wall in the dusky firelight light. Mountains still tower over cities. Eagles still take their flight. This heart is still yours, and it will be. Oh, hear me, I'm changing. Oh, 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 oh.
Our woodland is filled with the memories of stories told long ago. They gathered all night, they listened close, and the wind could hear their songs. And like that may our love be remembered, whispered on the golden breeze, carried on the wings of the memories of the ancient silver trees. Oh, 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 oh. Light a candle, watch it flicker, dance in the blossom, feel the grass beneath your feet, hold every moment. The sand is falling, stops for no one. Bathe in the water, breathe in deeper, watching the starling, listen closely, welcoming chorus. Every morning it stops for no one. Light a candle, watch it flicker, dance in the blossom, feel the grass beneath your feet, hold every moment. The sand is falling, stars
and the blossoms.
Feel the grass beneath your feet.
Hold every moment.
The sand is falling, it stops for no one. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we do our last song, which we will actually need some audience participation for, if you're up for it, before we get dinner. The promise is, if you help us, you get to have lunch. Does that sound good? I feel a little bit of hesitation. Does that sound good?
You're a quiet bunch.
Great, okay. Just to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for having us. And if you enjoy that kind of sound, please do go find the rest of our music. You can find us on Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, etc. And we do have CDs at the back for anybody who still has a CD player. And we find it helpful to have a CD in our car for when you randomly lose signal going down the Cornish lanes. So yeah, we would love to meet you afterwards as well, and please do come and grab a card. A lot of our music is very much nature themed. I feel like we could do a whole event around mental health and well-being and nature. So if that's your kind of thing, please do go find us. So this song was a special request from Julie, and it's a very popular song here in Cornwall. This is Cornwall My Home. Has anybody heard Cornwall My Home? Okay, now, if you don't know the lyrics to Cornwall My Home, you have full permission to get out your digital devices and find the lyrics to the song so that you can sing along with us. Is that okay? Yeah? Okay, so singing and singing together, as I think somebody touched on this earlier, is scientifically proven to be good for our mental health. So we definitely encourage you to sing along with us. And Mac found that singing actually during those periods of anxiety, it actually helped to regulate his breathing, taking those nice big deep breaths that you need to take to get the notes out. So we encourage you to sing along with us. This is Cornwall My Home, written by Harry Glasson. And don't be shy now, because the person next to you is probably just as self-conscious about you hearing them sing. So we encourage nice, big, loud singing voices. And thank you again for having us. This is Cornwall My Home, and then we can go have some delicious food together. Thank you so much. I've stood on Cape Cornwall in the sun's evening glow, on Junill and Newlyn, to watch the fishing fleets go, watch the shiv wheels at Giefer as they spun around, and heard the men singing as they go underground. All together now. And no one will ever move me from this land until the Lord calls me to sit at his hand. For this is my Eden, and I'm not alone. For this is my Cornwall, and this is my home.
I've left childish footsteps in the soft sin and sand, and I've chased the maiden, oh giggly and tan. I've stood on a cliff top in a westerly pole, and heard the waves thunder on the rocks far below, and no one will ever move me from this calls me to sit at his
first thing in the morning on Chapel Cornbreak to gaze at the ceilings in the blue foray. For this is my Cornwall, and I'll tell you why. Because I was born here, and here I shall die, and no one will ever move me from this land until the Lord calls me to sit at his hand. For this is my Eden, and I'm not alone. For this is my Cornwall, and this is my home. For this is my Cornwall, and this is my home.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much there. That is Mac and Laura, Our Atlantic Roots. Brilliant stuff. And just like they mentioned, they are one of our exhibitors at the back of the room as well. So if you want to hear more music from them, go and check out their stall in the lunch break. Now, I'm not going to keep you guys. We've literally got a few more minutes of things just before we leave. But it is just want to mention, before we end our live stream for our live stream audiences today, we really encourage to hear your feedback from today's event. So if you're watching online, there'll be a QR code where you can follow that online and, leave us some feedback. Let us know what worked and what didn't. And we'd love to hear from you. For those of you in the room as well, you'll get a chance to fill out feedback forms at the end of the workshops this afternoon as well. So, thank you so much. We're going to end our live stream now for our online viewers. So thank you so much. And a big shout out to the Chaos Digital team who have been live streaming at the back of the room today. Thank you to them. Okay, so for everybody else in the room, just a quick little plan. We've got sort of a 45-minute lunch break now. And then, go and help yourselves to food. Make use of the exhibitor stands. The workshops are going to be starting at 2 p.m. So if we can all meet back here at like 5 to 2, that will be great. For those on their ID cards, it's got the number of the